He worshipped the world's #1 hunter until he stumbled upon the hero's dark secret and was brutally murdered for it. But death wasn't the end. He came back, armed with a new power, the ability to steal a skill from his killer every time he dies. Now, his obsessive admiration has twisted into a relentless quest for revenge. He will hunt the man the world adores, using death itself as his ultimate weapon to tear down the false hero. In a world of towering dungeons and powerful hunters, one man stands above all others. They call him the Flame Emperor. He's a celebrity, constantly swarmed by reporters, flashing a confident smirk for the cameras. He's the hero everyone looks up to, the one who climbs the tower and defeats monsters. But in a small, simple room, another young man sits alone. His eyes are tired, shadowed with a deep melancholy. He sits on the edge of his bed, a medical machine humming quietly beside him. His desk is a shrine, covered in photos and articles all about one person, the Flame Emperor. This isn't just admiration, it's an obsession. Across the city, people talk. A group of kids excitedly discuss the Flame Emperor's latest feats. One of them types a message on their phone, a sentiment echoed by millions. I want to be like the Flame Emperor too. That same message floods our protagonist's phone screen. He sees the public image, the hero standing victorious over a slain beast, spear in hand, surrounded by fire. He sees the smug, sideways glance of a man who has it all. But the protagonist's room tells a different story. He stares at old black and white newspaper clippings, disasters, a hunter's funeral. He clutches a small, ornate dagger, his expression hardening. He remembers the Flame Emperor's interviews, the confident smile that now seems sinister. He sees that smile in his mind, a menacing grin that haunts him. Staring at a photo of the hero, something inside him snaps. His hand clenches, crumpling the picture. He falls to his knees, head bowed in total defeat. But defeat quickly turns to rage. His face twists in fury as he glares at his laptop, at the endless images of the man he despises. Memories flash through his mind, drinking alone, getting punched in the face. He clutches his head, his body shaking. He wants to kill someone, or maybe he just wants to be killed. In his absolute despair, he throws his arms up toward the window, a desperate prayer to an empty sky, and something answers. A strange blue light fills the room, and the newspaper clippings begin to float around him. He looks up, confused, as a glowing golden card materializes out of thin air. He looks down at his own hands, which have started to glow with the same golden light, sparkling particles drifting from his fingertips. A blue system window appears before his shocked eyes. An exclusive skill for you has been created. All around the world, others react with surprise to their own new skills, but his is different. He stares in disbelief as the system generates his unique card. It's an S+ rank skill, the highest of the high. The name is chillingly familiar. I want to become like you. The effect is just as shocking. It allows him to automatically copy one skill from the person who kills him. A powerful ability, but it comes with a terrifying, absolute condition. The final line on the card is a stark warning. However, you'll die. Tears of pure shock stream down his face as he stares at his glowing hands. He's on his knees, surrounded by the evidence of his obsession, holding a golden card that offers him power at the cost of his own life. The world keeps turning. For some, it's a story of climbing the tower, of becoming a hero. For others, it's a story of loss. But for Kim Gong-ja, it's a nightmare he can't seem to wake up from. He's slumped over a table in a small restaurant, the owner trying to snap him out of it. He's drowning in his own despair, blaming himself for his parents' deaths. The memory of his new skill flashes in his mind, an S+ rank ability that only works if he dies. Suddenly, a wave of nausea hits him. He stumbles up from the table, ignoring the owner's shouts, and rushes outside into a dark alley to get some air. But he's not alone. A scream cuts through the night. Peeking around the corner, Gongja's blood runs cold. There, under the streetlights, stands the Flame Emperor, Yu Suha, and with him is a woman with long white hair, the one they call the Saintess. The Flame Emperor just smirks as the Saintess Isabel stands her ground. He tells her he knows she tried to poison him. In fact, he switched the drinks. The poison she intended for him is now coursing through her veins. She clutches her throat, demanding to know how he knew. He mentions a lie detector skill, and her face falls. She realizes she's been completely outplayed. As Gongja watches in stunned silence, the hero he once obsessed over looks more like a monster. Isabel, with her last moments, tries one more gambit. She claims to have a lie detector skill of her own and asks him one final question for the antidote. Was he going to kill her anyway? Yu Suha doesn't answer. He simply turns his back as a massive, fiery explosion erupts, consuming the Saintess completely. Gongja stares in horror at the silhouette of the Flame Emperor, standing calmly before the inferno. This isn't a hero. This is a murderer. Panic sets in. Gongja gags, falling back into a pile of trash. He scrambles to his feet, desperate to escape, but his foot slips on something slick and green on the pavement. He goes down hard. Before he can even register the pain, a hand is on his shoulder. It's Yu Suha, a menacing smile on his face. What did you see? He asks. In that moment of pure terror, a bizarre thought hits Gongja. This world, this whole situation, it's from a novel he wrote. There's no time to process it. Gongja is running for his life, but he's no match for the Flame Emperor. Yu Suha, propelled by jets of fire, easily catches up. He lands gracefully. As Gongja lies on the ground, Gongja insists he saw nothing, but he made a fatal mistake. He used the Flame Emperor's nickname. Yu Suha grabs him by the collar, his expression shifting from amusement to fury. How does a random stranger know his title? Desperate, Gongja blurts out the only thing he can think of, the lie detector skill. He begs Yu Suha to use it, to see that he's telling the truth. For a second, Yu Suha looks surprised, then his face hardens. What lie detector skill? Gongja's heart stops. He realizes the horrifying truth. There was no skill, skill. Yu Suha killed the Saintess on nothing more than a suspicion. The hero laughs, patting Gongjia on the head like a child. He pretends to believe him, to let him go. Gongjia's body slumps in relief, but the relief is short-lived. Yu Suha's expression turns to ice. Since you saw everything, he says, a giant fiery hand materializing beside him. You have to die. With his last breath, Gongjia hears the Flame Emperor say his name. Then, nothing. A system window appears. You have died. Another follows. The S+ rank skill, I want to become like you, is being activated. In a dark void filled with floating cards, his disembodied consciousness reaches out and grabs a single, glowing golden skill. Then, an eye snaps open. Gongjia is sitting bolt upright in his own bed, staring at his hands. He's back in his room, surrounded by his obsessive shrine to the Flame Emperor. He's alive. A blue system window glows before his shocked face, its light reflecting in his wide eyes. He's come back with something new. The system announces, acquired S+ rank skill, Returner's Clockwork Watch. 3. Kim Gongjia is dazed, standing in the middle of his room. What just happened? He was just murdered. He glances at his desk, at his phone. The news article on the screen is about the incident with the Saintess, an incident that, according to the date, happened yesterday. The horrifying truth sinks in. He really did go back in time. A memory of the Flame Emperor's sinister smile flashes in his mind. He has to be sure. Skill card, open, he commands. A golden holographic interface appears. First, it shows his original S+ skill, I want to become like you, the ability that lets him copy a skill from his killer. He stares at it, then swipes to the next one. There it is, the skill he copied from Yu Suha. Another S+ rank, Returner's Clockwork Watch. The description is simple and world-shattering. Upon death, the user returns to 24 hours in the past. All his memories are retained. It all clicks into place. This is the Flame Emperor's secret. This is how he's always one step ahead, how he has a way of knowing things. The memory of being killed, the smug look on Yu Suha's face, it all comes rushing back. A grim determination settles over him. He looks at the golden card, a dark thought crossing his mind. Die? Let's see who dies this time. The scene shifts. A city street is in chaos. Gongjia is there, shouting fire, and pointing people toward the exit. He knows what's coming. He's on the tower's first floor, a district that's supposed to be deserted, now the center of a massive incident. He checks his phone. 6:37 a.m. The Flame Emperor should be arriving soon. Other top hunters are already on the scene. The rank 2 Black Dragon Guild leader, the Venerable, appears, followed by the rank 5 Heretic and the rank 8 Crusader. They're all assessing the situation, but Gongjia is just waiting. Then, he arrives. Yu Suha, the Flame Emperor, strolls through the panicked crowd, looking annoyed that someone is causing a scene without his permission. The Crusader greets him, but Yu Suha just gives a thin smile, clearly irritated. To the onlookers, he's the hero arriving to save the day, even if his personality is famously poor. But Gongjia sees him for what he is, a murderer. This is his chance. I have to kill him, Gongjia thinks, his expression hardening. He starts walking through the crowd, pushing past 2 men who try to stop him, telling him it's dangerous. He doesn't care. He walks right toward the Flame Emperor. As Yu Suha turns, surprised by someone calling his name, Gongjia lunges. He draws a sword with a green hilt, screaming that the monster in front of him deserves to die. But before he can even get close, a massive explosion of fire erupts from the Flame Emperor's position. The inferno consumes everything. The crowd screams in terror as they're burned alive. Gongjia is instantly vaporized. In the middle of the raging fire, the Flame Emperor stands completely unharmed. A blue system window appears. You have died. And another. Returning to 24 hours past, Gongjia's eyes snap open. He's back in his room, gasping for breath. The attack on the library is about to happen all over again. A system window confirms it. The skill worked perfectly, and there were no penalties. He can do this again and again, but he immediately understands the brutal reality of his situation. Killing the Flame Emperor is impossible. Not now. He's pathetically weak in comparison. A direct attack is just pointless suicide. He needs a new plan. He sits in his room, staring at the green-hilted sword from his failed attack. A memory surfaces a conversation where the Flame Emperor mentioned his birthday, a year ago, on June 5th. Gongjia does the math. He has 4,090 days until that point in the past. A horrifying idea begins to form. He picks up a small dagger. Let's try this. Without hesitation, he plunges the blade into his own chest. Blood spurts. A system window flashes. You have died. His eyes snap open. He's back. 24 hours earlier. He immediately does it again, stabbing himself, dying, and reviving. Over and over, his room becomes a cycle of death and rebirth. He dies in a pool of blood. He coughs up his life. Each time, a system window confirms his return, and each time, it confirms there are no penalties. He's found a loophole, a way to grind time itself. The day ends. Gongjia is on his knees, exhausted, surrounded by swirling blue and gold energy. He is broken, but his eyes burn with a new, terrifying determination. This was just day one. His brutal training has only just begun. Gongjia collapses onto his bed, then sits up, clutching his head. It worked. The endless cycle of death is over. He's done it. After 4,090 days of brutal, self-inflicted resets, he's finally arrived. He's in the past, a time before the Flame Emperor's legend was ever written. The training is finished. Now, the real hunt can begin. He grabs a dagger, slips on a hoodie, and steps out into a world 11 years younger. It's May 21st, 11 a.m. He has a target, a prey. He stands outside a rundown apartment, watching a specific window. He's done this before, repeating this very day to ensure his plan is flawless. He watches his target, a man with long dark hair, wake up with a hangover. Gongjia knows his every move. He wakes at 9, smokes by the window, and leaves for the tower, muttering about his miserable life. By 3 p.m., the man is on the second floor of the tower, grinding out a living. He complains about his debt as he hunts, just a typical 25-year-old hunter trying to get by. He finds a worthless gem and easily slices through a slime monster. From the bushes, Gongjia watches, his own face splattered with blood from his preparations. The clock ticks to 5:21 p.m. It's time. The target is alone in a forest clearing. "Hey!" Gongjia calls out, stumbling from the trees. He's covered in fake blood, acting like he was mauled by wolves. He begs for a potion, for help. The man is immediately suspicious. He doesn't offer help. He asks how much Gongjia is willing to pay. He pulls out a pink potion, smirking. He can't just give it away for free to a stranger now, can he? The man's greed gets the better of him. He tries to haggle, but quickly drops the act. He grabs Gongjia by the hoodie, demanding he hand over everything he has. "I knew it," Gongjia thinks, his expression hardening. The man frisks him, finding only a few coins. He mocks him, then demands his dagger. That's the final confirmation. As the man reaches for the weapon, Gongjia moves. He can't leave a witness who has seen his face. The man lunges, screaming for him to die. But Gongjia is faster. He's more prepared. He dodges the clumsy attack and plunges his own dagger deep into the man's chest. He follows up with a brutal slash, leaving his target gasping in shock and pain. Gongjia stands over the body, panting. He can't risk anything. He stabs the corpse again and again, making absolutely sure the man is gone. Gongjia. But now, after 4,090 days of observation, Gongjia knows the terrible truth. The man he just murdered, he was only acting like a scumbag. A brief flashback shows the man heroically defending others, but it's too late for second thoughts. Gongjia lets himself get killed by wolves, buries the evidence, and steps through a portal, his mission complete. He arrives in a grand hall, now in a clean, formal outfit. He sees the armored knight, who turns and recognizes him with a gasp. The plan, whatever it was a success. The scene shifts. The past is over. Gongjia walks through a bustling city at night. He's a hunter now, and he has to make a living. He's in a rowdy tavern, celebrating with his new party. They just cleared the 8th floor, his best hunt yet. Feeling smug, he opens his hunter ability window, rank 9, and there they are, his 2 precious S+ skills. He smiles, dreaming of the riches and power he can now acquire. His life has finally turned around. Just then, the tavern door opens. A tall man in a dark suit and bright red sneakers walks in and asks the bartender for milk. Another patron at the bar whispers in awe, "Why is the sword saint here?" Gongjia freezes, his beer halfway to his lips. He looks from the strange man to a framed portrait on the wall. His eyes go wide with shock. It can't be. The sword saint is supposed to be dead. 5. Gongjia stares, his beer forgotten. The sword saint, alive. Here, this isn't right. According to the news, Marcus Callenberry, the only hunter who ever stood shoulder to shoulder with the Flame Emperor, has been missing for a month. But here he is, ordering milk in a tavern. A dangerous thought sparks in Gongjia's mind. He takes a sip of his beer, his eyes fixed on the legendary hunter. He remembers his own S+ skill, the one that lets him copy an ability from whoever kills him. A slow, greedy smile spreads across his face. What if he could get the #1 hunter to kill him? What kind of insane power would he get then? But the thought dies just as quickly. He clutches his chest, the reality of his situation crashing down. He can't die. Not anymore. He spent 4,090 days dying over and over just to get here. If he dies now, his regression skill will activate, and this new life, this perfect timeline, will be reset. He can't afford to lose it. Still, the temptation is too strong. He pulls out his phone, frantically searching for any information on the Sword Saint, but there's nothing solid. Just forum posts from other hunters gossiping about his weird habits. The guy is a complete mystery. As Gongjia scrolls through an article, looking at a picture of the Flame Emperor, the Sword Saint suddenly glares at him from across the room. "Shut your mouth," he says coldly. "Don't you feel sorry?" Gongjia freezes, startled. He thought the man was just talking to himself. It seems all top rankers have a few screws loose. He quickly finds an article titled, "Things You Should Never Say in Front of the Sword Saint." The article is bizarre. It claims the Sword Saint is a good person, but you should never ever pick a fight with him. A flashback in the article shows a group of hunters mocking him. The Sword Saint just asks, "Are you going to kill me?" The next panel is a bloodbath. He slaughtered them all, then calmly went to give water to some children. Gongjia stares at his phone. What kind of good person is this? The Sword Saint mutters to himself again, getting more agitated, before slamming his hand on the table and storming out of the tavern. The moment he's gone, the entire bar breathes a collective sigh of relief. This is Gongjia's chance. He pays his tab, walks out into the night, and yells, "Where are you, rank 1? He spots the Sword Saint's distinctive red sneakers down the street and begins to follow. His mind is racing. The Flame Emperor had an S-rank skill. The #1 hunter must have something even better. A maniacal grin spreads across his face. He has to have that skill. He has to get the Sword Saint to kill him. The chase leads them out of the city into a dark, wooded area. The Sword Saint suddenly stops. He turns. "You followed me?" he asks. Gongjia ducks behind a tree, his heart pounding. But it's too late. The Sword Saint walks right up to his hiding spot. "I have a request," he says, his voice dangerously calm. He corners Gongja, demanding to know why he was followed. Gongja is panicking. He's been caught red-handed. The sword saint's hand rests on the hilt of his sword. "Your acting is pretty fine," the old man says, his eyes narrowed. "Just what you'd expect from a first-rate assassin." Gongja can only stare back, completely bewildered. "Assassin? What is he talking about? I've been receiving death threats for a month," the sword saint continues, "and you're the most persistent one. So just kill me already." He's treating Gongja like a hired killer. Gongja tries to plead his case, but the sword saint suddenly turns and runs, yelling that he's curious. Then, just as suddenly, he stops. He draws his sword, its blade glowing with a golden aura. "I have a few questions for you," he says, "and I'll tell you how many after I kill you." In a flash, a searing pain rips across Gongja's chest. He's been cut. Gongja stumbles back, but a grim resolve takes over. He has to die to get the skill. He faces the legendary hunter under the moonlight. "I am ready to die," he declares, but the sword saint just looks at him with disgust. "For a human like you are trying too hard to give up on your life." He sheathes his sword, saying he's not as unhinged as Gongja. Then, without warning, he rushes forward. "I'll teach you a lesson." He strikes Gongja with a non-lethal blow. At that exact moment, a glowing red skull symbol appears in the sword saint's vision, hovering over Gongja, and on it is a number, 4091. Gongja sees the look in the old man's eyes, and it all clicks. The sword saint has a skill that lets him see a person's kill count, and thanks to his 4090 self-inflicted deaths and the one man he murdered to get here, the sword saint sees him as a legendary mass murderer who has claimed 4091 lives. "Did the Black Dragon Witch send you?" the sword saint asks. "It's hopeless. There's no explaining this. As long as the sword saint has that skill, Gongja will always look like a monster. He has only one option left. He turns and runs. He flees through the dark forest, but it's no use. In a blur of blue energy, the sword saint appears right behind him, sword drawn. Gongja looks back in sheer terror as the old man declares, "I will use this life to find your life." The air splits with the sound of a powerful slash. The sword saint's blade comes down, glowing with a cold blue light. He's not playing around anymore. He thinks Gongja must be a first-rate assassin to have pushed him this far. But Gongja is just terrified, thinking this old man is completely insane. The attack is just the beginning. The sword saint follows up with a brutal kick to the leg, and a flurry of strikes so fast Gongja can't even track them. He's sent flying, crying out in pain. Gongja lies face down in the dirt, completely outmatched. That first cut was just luck. He can't see the old man's attacks at all. The forest goes quiet. The sword saint stands over him, sword resting on his shoulder. He starts talking, a one-sided conversation. He says his sword has no eyes, that he can't go easy on him. He asks why Gongja is here, muttering about taking care of another life. Gongja is baffled. Is this telepathy? Does the sword saint have a skill that lets him talk to the world? Then, a horrifying thought hits him. If the sword saint can talk to the world, what is he telling it? He could be broadcasting Gongja's information to every hunter on the planet, that he's a murderer with a kill count of 4091. Gongja imagines a wanted poster with his face on it, a huge crowd of hunters surrounding him, laughing at him. His new life would be over before it even began. He can't let that happen. He has to die, right now, before the 2-4-hour window for his regression skill closes. A new resolve fills him. He pushes himself to his feet and faces the old man. "My mind is set," he says, a dark plan forming. He needs to provoke the sword saint, to make him deliver a killing blow. He starts with a low blow. "Are your grandchildren doing fine?" he asks, a sinister smile on his face. He brings up the sword saint's wealthy family in Europe, hinting at the shady people they might attract. He implies a threat, saying anyone with the sword saint's blood must be a lovely target. That does it. The sword saint's sword erupts in a brilliant blue light. The blade descends, a massive arc of energy that seems to flip the moon upside down. As the attack hits, all Gongja sees is the beautiful blue light. He couldn't even see the sword move. A faint smile crosses his lips as he falls. He's jealous. He wants that power. He wants that attack. His hand reaches out weakly as the world goes black. A system message appears. "You have died. The skill copy requirements have been met." Gongja finds himself in a familiar starry void, swirling cards appearing before him. "This is it!" The skills of the rank 1 hunter. He excitedly reaches out, looking for a legendary gold card, but as he grabs them, he realizes something is wrong. There are way more cards than last time, and most of them are silver. He only has one gold card in a sea of lesser ones. A flashback reminds him, even the top rankers are only S rank. S+ skills are on another level entirely. Panic sets in as his body begins to flicker. He's running out of time to choose. He has one gold card and 4 silver ones. The odds aren't good. He remembers the useless skill he got before, and shudders. He can't afford another dud. He needs an S+ skill now. Ignoring the odds, he turns his back on the cards, mimics the sword saint's slash, and begs for that power. A system message announces his return to the 2-4-hour mark. A giant clock face spins backward, and Gongja is violently thrown through time, gasping as he lands hard in his own bed. He's back. He survived. He quickly checks his status. A golden window pops up. Returner's Clockwork Watch. An A rank skill. He's relieved it's not another kill count skill, but a little disappointed it's just another passive ability. He decides decides to check the other card. A new window appears. Sword constellation, A+, an A+. As he lies back, wondering what it does, he's annoyed by a noise. Who is being so loud? He mutters. A woman's voice answers, scolding some old man for making a racket at night. Gongja freezes. He looks over. Lying in bed right next to him is a woman with long, flowing red hair. He stares down at her, his mind completely blank with shock. Gongja is frozen, staring at the red-haired woman lying in his bed. But then a man's voice cuts through the silence. Keep it down, he says. You're being too loud. Gongja's mind goes completely blank. He stammers, who are you? The man looks up from the pillow, a surprised look on his face. You can see me? Gongja just nods, still sitting up in bed. The man seems to be thinking. And hear me? Well, I guess so, since we're talking. He sits up, looking utterly perplexed. That's weird, he mutters. There's no way. He then leans in, getting uncomfortably close to Gongja's face, inspecting him like a strange bug. Gongja flinches back. The man leans away, commenting that Gongja doesn't have a strong aura. Then he drops a bombshell. People call me the Sword Emperor. Gongja's shock turns to confusion. He can't see any details about this guy. But then a golden system window pops into view. It displays a title, Sword Master, with a rank of A+. It all clicks. This isn't a person, it's a ghost from another world, summoned by the skill he just copied. The Sword Master looks at him intently. Hey you, are you the successor to the Sword Saint? He then seems to answer his own question. I am, that's right. Gongja remembers the starry void, begging for the Sword Saint's power. He looks at the spectral warrior in his room and makes a difficult confession. I'm sorry, but I think I copied you. The Sword Master's eyes go wide, and then they narrow into slits of pure fury. He lets out a silent, raging scream. Give it back, the ghost roars, his voice filled with venom. Give me back my technique. I can't let it be stolen by a nobody like you. He grabs Gongja by the collar, lifting him off the bed. He's furious, explaining that his own teacher was his enemy. He demands to know if Gongja understands what it means for his sacred techniques to fall into enemy hands. Gongja, terrified, tries to explain. He starts talking about his skill, 100 Ghosts Reincarnation, but as he says the name, a memory flashes in his mind. He remembers the Sword Saint, back in the forest, yelling about interference. A sudden realization hits him. He starts laughing, a manic, relieved sound that just confuses the enraged ghost. I need to hide you, Gongja says, from the old man. He explains that the Sword Saint has a skill that lets him see things others can't. He can see ghosts. Gongja holds up 4 fingers. My kill count is 4,091. The Swordmaster stares in disbelief. He calls Gongja a beginner of beginners with no aura. How could he possibly have killed that many people? Gongja calmly explains the truth. He only killed one person, a future villain. The other 4,090 were all him. He killed himself over and over again. He lays it all out. His regression skill that lets him copy a power from his killer and return 24 hours to the past. His ability to go back one day at a time, making him practically immortal. He tells the ghost about the 11 years worth of days he spent dying just to get rid of a single, cursed skill. The Swordmaster sits opposite him, listening in complete silence. Finally, the ghost asks for his name. Gongja, he replies. The Swordmaster just calls him an old man. Gongja finishes his story, explaining that he needs to get stronger to kill the Flame Emperor, which is why he provoked the Sword Saint in the first place. He's being completely honest because the skill description says only he can perceive the Swordmaster. The secret is safe. The Swordmaster tells him to stand up. He grabs Gongja's arms and shoulders, inspecting his physique. No resolve, he mutters, weak muscles. He leans in close. Hey Kim Gongja, show me how you hunt monsters. The scene shifts. They're in a dark forest under the moonlight. Gongja is surrounded by floating, red, gelatinous monsters with single eyes. The Swordmaster tells him to get rid of them. Gongja summons a glowing blue dagger and lunges forward, but his attack is clumsy. A monster easily dodges and whips a tendril at him, sending him flying. The Swordmaster just watches from the background, his arms crossed, completely unimpressed. A short while later, Gongja stands panting amidst the splattered remains of the monsters, covered in their blood. The Swordmaster speaks. My intuition was correct. He then reveals his own story. In his past life, he was the heavenly demon of the demonic sect. He climbed to the 20th floor of the tower in his world before he died, and Gongja's skill summoned his soul. Then comes the brutal honesty. Your efforts were wasted, the Swordmaster says. You have no talent for fighting at all. He critiques Gongja's average movements, pointing out that he doesn't even fight with the intent to win. But then, he acknowledges something else. Gongja has a unique talent. He has no fear of death. While fighting, he doesn't instinctively try to save his own life, a trait that is completely unnatural for any living being. The Swordmaster looks at him. Dying over 4,000 times to get rid of a skill is a great achievement. For the first time, someone is praising him for his suffering. Gongja looks down, stunned and emotional. A flashback shows the source of his resolve, the memory of the Flame Emperor treating him like a bug, a feeling that drove him to kill himself thousands of times without a second thought. Back in the present, the Swordmaster asks a critical question. Hey, the first time the Sword Saint attacked you, did you see his sword path? Gongja looks up, a new fire of determination in his eyes. Under the moonlight, he gives his answer. Yes, I did. The Swordmaster's training begins not with a sword, but with a shout. He cups his hands and yells at a lump under the covers. Gongja groans, begging for just 5 more minutes. But the ghost is relentless, questioning why a young man is sleeping so much. He even grabs a wooden practice sword and gives the bed a good whack. back. The ghost threatens to sing a song from his homeland that can burst eardrums. Gongja, head buried under a pillow, finally snaps. He sits bolt upright, grabs the swordmaster's wrist, and shoves his phone in the ghost's face. "What time is it?" he yells. The screen glows. 4 a.m. "You crazy bastard." The swordmaster, slightly taken aback, just suggests Gongja must have been bored. Gongja retorts that he used to wonder why the sword saint was so diligent, but now he realizes it was just because his ghost was being loud. The swordmaster explodes, admitting he was bored and just wanted to wake him up. Gongja sighs. He has to train anyway, so he'll just take it as the ghost's good intentions. He points to a glass of water. "I want to kill you," he says flatly. The swordmaster just smirks, reminding him he's already dead. Then a realization hits the ghost. Gongja can't die either. He grins. "From now on, I'll call you Kim Zombie." Gongja is not amused. 4 days pass. Gongja has been training, running through the city streets with the ghost floating beside him, nagging relentlessly. He's even managed to visit the 10th floor again, carefully avoiding any sign of the sword saint. The swordmaster explains that this official training requires a registration fee. He makes an OK sign with his fingers and declares with a massive grin, "So let's go win the lottery, zombie." And so, they head to the merchant troupe, the guild run by the rank 9 hunter. This guild has a monopoly on bringing goods from the outside world into the tower, including the only lottery tickets available. A cheerful clerk in a cat-eared hat greets them. Gongja steps forward and says he's here to claim his prize. The swordmaster, visible only to Gongja, mutters that the guild leader must be a cat lady. Gongja explains the ticket is from last week, bought right after he first met the ghost. A quick flashback shows the swordmaster nagging him to buy it. The clerk takes the ticket for a background check. Suddenly, it flashes with a brilliant golden light. A huge holographic display appears. First place prize, 53,000 G. The clerk's jaw drops. A crowd instantly gathers, buzzing with shock. The swordmaster smugly comments on how easy it is to make money. Gongja isn't surprised. He remembers that before he regressed, the Flame Emperor also used his powers to win the lottery. He learned a valuable lesson from that. Trying to hide a huge win is impossible. It's safer to be public, because if the winner gets robbed, the merchant troupe's reputation is on the line. As the clerk runs off to get a supervisor, Gongja follows the ghost's advice and asks for a quiet place to talk. They're led upstairs by an older man, also in a cat ear hat, who introduces himself as Arthur Taylor, the safekeeper. The safekeeper notes Gongja's interesting hat, likely sensing the swordmaster's presence. As they walk, the ghost whispers that Gongja needs to develop the mindset of a psychopath like the Flame Emperor or Sword Saint, believing the world exists to serve him. Gongja silently decides that's one lesson he won't be learning. The safekeeper, seeing Gongja's quiet expression, asks if he's unwell. Gongja apologizes, and the man's kind smile makes him wonder if he's an angel. Meanwhile, the swordmaster sits on a couch, muttering, "Too easy." In the VIP lobby, the safekeeper reveals the prize, a massive open chest overflowing with glowing gold coins, 53,000 gold. That's about $5 million. Gongja gulps, a memory of his old, impoverished life flashing in his mind. He could live like a king, but if money was his only goal, his dream would already be over. His real goal is to conquer the tower and become the top hunter. The money is just a tool. He's already seen a golden light more attractive than these coins, the light of an S+ skill. Gongja turns to the safekeeper. He'll keep the money with the guild, and he wants to buy an honorary membership. The cost is 10,000 gold. Done, Gongja says, paying on the spot. The safekeeper asks if he's affiliated with any other guilds. Gongja confirms he isn't. The swordmaster smirks. His student is smarter than he looks. Gongja knows the biggest advantage of a guild isn't power, but protection. In this lawless city, with monsters like the Venerable, the Heretic Questioner, and the Flame Emperor running around, he needs a shield. The Sword Saint made enemies by being a lone wolf, but Gongja is a nobody. He can't afford that path. But he's not done. There's one more thing, Gongja says. He explains his poor living situation and asks the guild to recommend a new home. He also gives a specific instruction. Make sure any newspaper reports about his lottery win mention his new status as an honorary member of the merchant troupe. The safekeeper, taking notes, looks up, impressed by his thoroughness. The swordmaster laughs. Gongja smirks to himself. The old man thought he was an easy mark, but he just flipped the script. Later, Gongja sits in a luxurious new room, a pile of gold coins on the table beside him. The swordmaster observes, "You look pretty happy to me." Gongja smiles, resting a hand near the gold. "Of course," he says, "this is only the start." A single gold coin flips through the air and lands perfectly in his hand. After 4,000 deaths, this is a privilege he's earned. His obsession with revenge is behind him. Now, it's time to enjoy the game. With his newfound wealth and guild protection secured, Gongja is ready for the next step. The swordmaster gets right to it, placing a hand on Gongja's head. He declares his student's foundation is weak, so he'll have to teach him from the very basics. To do that, they need a textbook, a martial arts manual, or a scroll to enhance his physical abilities. The ghost grabs Gongja by the collar, insisting they need a good one. Gongja, overwhelmed, asks just how good. The swordmaster smirks. The best textbook would be the Sword Saint himself, but he's way too expensive. So, the ghost leans in and whispers a new plan. Gongja's eyes widen in shock, a golden light flaring within them. Suddenly, Gongja is sprinting down the street in a full-blown panic. The swordmaster floats behind him, explaining that the Sword Saint is a creature of habit. Their mission is to find out his schedule, but just Just as they're running, the ghost yanks Gongja back by his jacket collar. "Hide," he commands, pointing ahead. As they creep along, the sword master casually mentions he forgot to tell Gongja something important. Peeking around a corner, they spot their target. A man with white hair and a sharp blue suit walks down the street, umbrella in hand. The Sword Saint. The ghost explains this is his favorite store. Gongja is furious. Why didn't he tell him this sooner? He glares at the ghost, but his anger quickly turns to terror. They dive behind a large green dumpster as the Sword Saint walks past, his intense blue eyes scanning the area. Gongja clamps his hands over his mouth, trembling, trying not to make a sound. Even the sword master looks nervous, whispering about how scary the old man is. The Sword Saint passes their alley and enters a nearby building. The ghost panics, convinced they were almost discovered. He grabs Gongja, shaking him. "Don't forget this place." Later, Gongja pulls out his phone, trying to search for the high-end store, but it's not showing up in any normal search. These kinds of places are too exclusive. The sword master asks if he's giving up, but Gongja has a new idea. If the Sword Saint likes expensive, clean places, then they need to find the exact opposite. They need to find the cheapest, most run-down place in the city, somewhere the Sword Saint would never, ever go. Their search leads them to the slums. They walk through filthy alleys, stepping over trash bags. This is the kind of place the Sword Saint, with his miserable past, would actively avoid. As they navigate the squalor, Gongja spots two thugs he recognizes from his previous life. He remembers they were involved with a pharmacist. Just then, the sword master points. There she is. A muscular man in a vest is grabbing a woman with long green hair, screaming at her. He calls her a crazy pharmacist, then violently throws her and all her supplies into a wooden cart. He pushes the cart through the jeering crowd to a garbage-strewn lot and dumps everything on the ground. "Here's your new store," he sneers. The woman, Sylvia, scrambles to her feet. Amidst her spilled potions, she tries to sell her wares to the onlookers, shouting about their high quality. But the crowd just calls her crazy and walks away, leaving her utterly alone and defeated. As Sylvia collapses to the ground, sobbing, the swordmaster points her out. "That's the best alchemist you're gonna get." Gongja walks right up to her. He sits on a crate in front of the crying woman and says one word: "Boss." Sylvia looks up, her tear-stained face a mask of surprise. A system window appears, identifying her. Sylvia, the alchemy caster, a pharmacist exiled from the civil guild. She wipes her eyes and asks if he's here to make fun of her. Gongja ignores the question and gets straight to business. He calmly asks her to make him a potion, a very specific one, something that can dissolve a corpse completely without a single trace. Sylvia is stunned into absolute silence, her mouth hanging open. A predatory smile spreads across Gongja's face. He thinks to himself that this woman will be his goose that lays 100% pure gold eggs. He tells her to take his order, because he's about to become a regular customer. Gongja's request for a corpse-dissolving potion does not go over well. She screams. While she's having a meltdown, the sword master just floats behind Gongja, laughing his head off at the chaos. But Gongja remains completely calm, his back still turned to her. He surveys the garbage-strewn lot, thinking to himself that this is a pretty shabby workshop. The sword master is still giddy, but Gongja ignores him. He turns back to the fuming alchemist, who is now starting to pick up her spilled supplies. He changes the subject entirely. "Can you make an elixir?" The question throws Sylvia off. She stands behind a makeshift counter of broken crates, her expression shifting from anger to suspicion. She asks if he's really going to pay 1,000 gold for a potion that costs 1,000 gold. Gongja suggests paying up front if she doesn't trust him. Smirking, he tells her to take as much money as she needs directly from his account. Flustered, Sylvia decides to stick to the original 1,000 gold, but she has a condition. She pulls out a small notebook, ready to take his order. "I'm warning you," she says, her face serious. "If you're requesting an illegal drug, I will decline." She makes it clear that's a line she will never cross. Gongja reassures her it's nothing like that. This is his real test. At his prompting, the sword master begins listing off ingredients for a special elixir: the liver of a rabbit pig, eyes of the bald-faced desert earthworm, the tail of a black salamander. Sylvia diligently takes notes as the ghost names all 27 components. The sword master explains the recipe is for the 100-day enlightenment infusion, a potion to awaken the 5 senses and purify one's chi. He calls it an extremely difficult formula. Gongja confirms this is what he wants. The ghost looks shocked for a moment, then Gongja looks over at him with a slight smile. "That's right," he says. "It was a lie. He was testing her." Sylvia looks up from her notes with a smug, knowing grin. "Of course," she says. She explains that the recipe is a famous fake, designed specifically to trick people. She then proceeds to lecture both Gongja and a very flustered sword master on their amateur mistake. Now, completely convinced of her skills, Gongja leans forward. He asks her 2 simple questions. How long will it take to make the real potion, and how much will it cost? Sylvia's confidence surges. 4 days, she states, her reflection visible in her glasses. She explains it would normally be quicker, but she needs to buy all new equipment. As she speaks, a vision of the future flashes Sylvia in a clean, professional lab, a long line of armored knights waiting outside her door for her services. Gongja agrees that 4 days is fine. Later, as he and the swordmaster walk away from the slums, the ghost comments on how much money he just spent. He asks if Gongja has a thing for Sylvia, but Gongja just looks back towards the slums, explaining that he was simply simply creating a persona for her to trust. He even smiles, recalling that she called him a good person. The swordmaster is impressed she saw through the fake recipe, but predicts she'll probably run away if she ever sees them again. But she doesn't run. A montage shows Sylvia using Gongja's investment to build a brand new, professional lab from the ground up. She's seen happily carrying boxes and working at a clean desk. Gongja even helps her move in, handing her supplies as she smiles gratefully. Finally, in her pristine new lab, Sylvia crosses her arms and asks him directly, why would he make such a costly request to a homeless pharmacist like her? She's confident in her skills, but she needs to know his real motive. Sylvia recalls crying in the garbage, feeling like trash herself. Gongja decides to give her an answer. He tells her his eyes are a bit different. A quick flashback shows Sylvia on a team with the Flame Emperor, thinking she dislikes his personality. Back in the present, Gongja smiles. He says it would be a waste to let someone with her talent rot in the slums, and that he helped because she looked like a kind person. He holds out his hand. Let's work together for the future. They shake hands. As their hands clasp, a brilliant golden light erupts between them, sealing their new partnership. Gongja thinks to himself, it was all true. At the same time, Sylvia thinks she couldn't have asked for a more trustworthy partner. Smiling brightly, she tells him to call her anytime. She'll prioritize all his requests. Gongja thanks her and walks out of her new establishment, raising a hand in farewell. His new alchemist officially secured. With his new alchemist secured, Gongja's training begins immediately. He's not in a dojo though. He's in a dark forest, staring down a massive, muscular orc. Gongja doesn't want to get hurt, but he knows he has to fight. He glares back at the ghost floating beside him. You damned ghost. But the swordmaster is unimpressed. He looks down at his student and says he doesn't listen to cowards. The ghost grins, his taunts turning menacing. He tells Gongja if he doesn't like the training, he can just kill himself. The kill count will go up, and the old man, the sword saint, will love him for it. The threat hangs in the air as the orc roars and swings its massive club. But as the attack comes, Gongja notices something strange. Everything is moving in slow motion. He thinks, it's slow. This has to be the effect of Sylvia's elixir. He can see the attack perfectly, but there's a huge problem. His body won't react. The swordmaster appears right behind him, grabbing his head. Can't move? He asks. He explains that low-level mobs have simple, readable patterns. Now that Gongja's mind is sharp enough to see them, his body needs to catch up. The orc swipes again. Gongja knows he can dodge it in a single step, but his legs won't obey. Gritting his teeth, he screams at himself to move. Suddenly, a red energy pulses, and he leaps into the air, delivering a powerful, glowing kick to the orc's side. He lands, staring at his hands in shock. I did it! The swordmaster holds up a glowing red, heart-like core of aura. He explains that Gongja's body is still too slow. The elixir only gave him a beginner's boost, just enough for his mind to keep up. Without it, he wouldn't have stood a chance. As Gongja runs, another orc appears, unleashing powerful attacks that slice through the air with blue energy. Gongja watches from a distance, thinking that even if the monster is disgusting, its moves are amazing. The orc is using skills. Gongja dodges another attack, trying to channel his own aura. He asks the swordmaster what happens when he achieves a breakthrough. The ghost smirks, asking if he knows the final step of the 100 steps of the demonic cult. In a surreal vision, Gongja stands on a moon under a starry sky. I do, he replies. Back in the forest, he realizes the old man still has so much to teach him. With newfound determination, he dodges a downward swing from the orc's club, the weapon grazing past his head. He's not just surviving anymore, he's learning. A confident grin spreads across his face as he weaves through a flurry of the orc's energy slashes. The swordmaster watches with a curious expression as Gongja's form becomes a blur, red aura swirling around his hands. He closes the distance, his sword clashing against the orc's thick hide. Focus your aura into the tip of the blade, the ghost instructs, then simplifies it. Just dump all your aura into the tip. Gongja lets out a primal scream. He pours every ounce of energy into his sword, the blade glowing with fiery orange light. It pierces the orc's chest, erupting out its back in a burst of green light. With one final push, he drives the blade all the way through, impaling the beast and lifting it off the ground in a spray of green fluid. The orc collapses, defeated. As Gongja stands over the body, the swordmaster appears. He kneels by the dead orc and asks if it hurts, saying this is punishment for using moves that weren't its own. The words hit Gongja like a ton of bricks. He realizes the ghost is talking about him, too. An intense, full-body pain suddenly washes over him, and he collapses to his knees. A rainbow-colored aura envelops him as he clutches his chest, screaming in agony. The swordmaster just looks down. Does it hurt so much you feel like dying? He asks calmly. Then just die. Things will be better after. The ghost explains that it's better to die and reset than to let bad habits form in his body. He casually sits on the dead orc, calling Gongja a zombie, and explaining that each death will make him tougher. As Gongja tries to crawl away, the swordmaster calls him back, dangling a reward, a small golden lizard. Let's start with death number 1, he declares. A blue system window appears in a black void. You have died. Gongja sits up in the darkness, clutching his head. He asks the swordmaster where they are. The ghost calls it a new world for crazy people who die. But before they can talk more, another system window appears. Because of your death, the skill requirements have been met. Gongja can copy skills. A second window pops up. Randomly copy skills of monster orc. 3 skill cards float in the air. For a moment, both Gongja and the swordmaster are silent. Then they erupt in unison. Monsters have skills too? They both start shouting, realizing how completely completely overpowered this is. As the system prompts him to choose a card, the Swordmaster yells that he wants the skill too. But as the system prompts him to choose a card, the Swordmaster explodes, furious that a total newbie is getting such a broken ability. Gongjia just laments the collapse of hunter culture while secretly thrilled. He reaches for a card at random, telling his ghostly mentor it doesn't matter which one he picks. The Swordmaster is baffled. The cards are face down and shuffling. It's a total gamble, but Gongjia just smirks, asking if the ghost can't see the backs of the cards. The Swordmaster stares, completely lost. Gongjia thinks to himself that he can see them perfectly, then admits it out loud. He can see the fronts of the cards. No matter how they shuffle, the cards always turn their backsides towards him, revealing their contents. The Swordmaster floats upside down in shock. Gongjia can see the skills. A wave of understanding washes over Gongjia. He shouts, Eureka! He finally gets it. His copy skill doesn't just copy the skill itself, it lets him see what his target sees. The Swordmaster yells at him to stop screaming, but Gongjia just demands to know what the skills are. Annoyed but intrigued, the ghost agrees to read them out. The first card is rank F, Blessing of Reproduction. It explains that orcs overcome hardship with high fertility. The drawback, the user will suffer from being in heat all year round. The second card is also rank F, Chi-Ik Chick. The description says the user will end every sentence with Chi-Ik Chick and will never want to stop. Gongjia is disgusted. The Swordmaster smugly claims he saved Gongjia from picking it, then ironically tells him to pick the third unknown card. But Gongjia just smirks. He was tricking his master the whole time. The Swordmaster panics, begging him not to choose the ridiculous verbal tick skill, but it's too late. The system announces the selection is complete. As the ghost reaches out in horror, Gongjia is engulfed in a vortex of blue light, the Chi-Ik Chick skill being burned into his soul. He wakes up in his bed, feeling refreshed. A system window confirms he's still F rank, and more importantly, there was no penalty for choosing the skill. Yes, he shouts in triumph. The Swordmaster is fuming, unable to believe he actually picked that useless skill. He drags Gongjia out of bed, telling him it's time to hunt. A quick check of his status shows his new active skill, Chi-Ik Chick. The Swordmaster tries a different approach. He gently suggests they train through meditation for 6 months to learn about aura without the pain of dying. Gongjia completely ignores him. He walks straight into a portal to the third floor hunting ground, leaving the Swordmaster to erupt in a comical fit of rage. In the forest, Gongjia downs a potion and squares up against another orc. The Swordmaster notes that his student can now fight the monster on even ground, even without the elixir. The battle is fierce, with Gongjia wielding 2 swords. Suddenly, red energy crackles around the orc as it prepares a powerful move. But just as it's about to unleash its attack, a system window pops up. The skill has activated. The orc stops dead in its tracks, tilts its head, and lets out a confused Chi-Ik. The monster stares at its own hand, completely bewildered. Seeing his chance, Gongjia grins and shouts back, Chi-Ik. The orc is stunned. While it's distracted, Gongjia lunges forward, his sword glowing, letting out one last Chi-Ik before plunging the blade straight through the monster's chest. He kicks off the falling body, landing perfectly. He complements his new skill's ability to create an opening. The Swordmaster is speechless. He calls Gongjia a petty coward for winning so easily and without remorse. Gongjia just grins and replies, Chi-Ik. The ghost throws a full-blown tantrum, furious that such a broken, overpowered skill was wasted on a troll like Gongjia. But Gongjia isn't listening. He tells his master to stop sweating. They're heading to the 4th floor. A week passes in the blink of an eye. Gongjia isn't just on the 4th floor. He's at the boss room, standing over the defeated Goblin King. The monster dissolves into particles as a system window pops up. Acquired skill. He's dodged energy spikes and landed the final blow, earning himself another F-rank ability, Goblin High Society. Gongjia puts on a dramatic show, bidding farewell to his toughest enemy this past week. But then his face falls. You gotta be shitting me, he mutters. The Swordmaster erupts in laughter. He can't believe Gongjia is getting emotional over a monster. Gongjia yells back, frustrated. He complains that he died 6 times to beat this boss. And for what? Only 6 coins. He deserves a moment. The ghost grabs him by the collar, insisting it wasn't an honorable fight anyway. Gongjia explains his new skill. It forces lower-ranked goblins to bow to him, but it also forces him to bow to higher-ranked ones. The Swordmaster just smirks, cryptically saying humans aren't so different. Before Gongjia can ask what that means, a new system window appears. Your existence becomes more apparent. He's enveloped in a bright light, suspended in a vortex of red energy. He's leveled up. More importantly, the system announces he can now be seen by others. The days of being a ghost in the tower are over. As the light fades, the Swordmaster asks what that was all about. Gongjia explains that the level up effect, the red particles, is a hint about his aura. He uses the Flame Emperor as an example, whose fiery aura is obvious from his flame-based level up effect. The Swordmaster speculates that Gongjia's aura is either fireworks or blood, shaped by his personality and will. This triggers a memory for the ghost. He flashes back to his youth, a white-haired boy standing under a crescent moon. He admits he went into the mountains as a child because he wanted to die, but the beauty of the moonlight changed him. He wanted to give light, just like the moon. Back in the present, the Swordmaster reflects that moonlight is beautiful, but also lonely. Snapping out of it, he's ready to head to the 5th floor. But Gongjia has other plans. He wants to skip straight to the 10th floor boss. The Swordmaster is shocked, yelling that it's a terrible idea. Gongjia proposes a deal. If he fails, he'll finally become a proper, obedient student. The Swordmaster is skeptical, but agrees to the challenge. Gongjia adds his own conditions. The ghost has to tell him the 10th floor dragon dragon's skills, and if he wins, the swordmaster has to start calling him Gongja politely. The ghost mockingly agrees, daring him to even land a single hit. They arrive at the gate to the 10th floor, but a knight in full plate armor blocks their path. He tells Gongja he can't pass, that challenging the boss alone is suicide. Gongja argues, insisting it's his right to choose his own death. The knight won't budge, citing the rules. Seeing his argument is failing, Gongja completely changes his tune. He looks down, his face flushed with sadness. He tells the knight he has a reason he must clear the floor. He just really wants to. The knight is taken aback by the sudden shift, and then, the performance begins. With a sparkly tragic background, Gongja spins a sob story. His lover died a year ago. He has an incurable disease. He just wants to die a hunter's death instead of wasting away. The knight is completely stunned, his heartstrings thoroughly pulled. He places a hand on Gongja's shoulder, respecting his resolve, and agrees to let him pass. The sword master watches in the background, his face a mask of pure disbelief at the blatant deception. Gongja strolls past the knight, dropping a few potion bottles as he goes. He and the sword master arrive on the 10th floor. Before them stands a large, modern-looking building under a gloomy sky, the same place the Flame Emperor once cleared. Gongja vows to himself that he'll leave an even greater legacy. The massive doors to the building swing open, revealing a brightly lit hall. Gongja is silhouetted in the doorway. Inside, at the top of a grand staircase, two small, childlike figures are waiting. A girl in a blue dress and a boy in a pink outfit. They giggle, their eyes glowing menacingly, and ask Gongja to play with them. They suggest a game of hide and seek. They'll be the chasers, and he'll be the little sheep. A system window erupts in front of him, issuing a new quest: survive the children's game. With a sword in hand and his eyes glowing red, Gongja just smirks. He accepts their challenge. 14. The game of hide and seek has begun, but before Gongja can even make a move, we get a glimpse into the past. We see the leader of the Black Dragon Guild, the Venerable, looking defeated. Her guild, the strongest in the tower, failed to clear this very floor. Her excuse? They were just unlucky. But not everyone bought it. The Flame Emperor, the man who conquered this floor, just scoffs at the idea. He stands surrounded by reporters and fireworks, declaring that luck is a skill too. He recalls his own attempt. He cleared the 10th floor in one go, a feat everyone called a miracle. Back in the present, the Swordmaster explains how that miracle happened. The strategy is simple: find the real doll. The two creepy children are just the hosts. The real challenge is a room filled with a cursed inferno and countless identical dolls. The fire is made of a curse, and touching the fake dolls does nothing. But if you find and grab the one real doll, you clear the stage. The Flame Emperor just happened to grab the right one on his first try. Pure luck, or so it seemed. Now, it's Gongja's turn. He's standing in that same raging inferno, a fragile green aura protecting him from the flames. The Swordmaster taunts him from a safe distance, telling him to hurry up and hide before he gets spotted. Gongja just coughs, sweat pouring down his face. He retorts that he lives off his luck, but his protective aura is already flickering. The Swordmaster notes that he has about 1 minute before it fails completely, and lunges through the fire, ready to teach him a lesson. The Flame Emperor just waited for his luck to kick in, but Gongja has to make a choice. The Swordmaster explains there are two ways to clear the stage. The first is to find the doll using holy water, but Gongja just smirks. He thinks his master only knows half the story. He's confident he can win this in one go. The countdown begins. 10 seconds. He walks into the crowd of identical, creepy dolls. He could grab one at random, but he zeroes in on a specific one, a blonde doll in a red dress. It turns its head to look at him. With the flames roaring around him, Gongja grabs the doll from behind. "Got you," he says confidently, but the doll's face twists in pure terror. "Wrong," she screams, her face starting to melt. "I'm not it! I'm not it!" 5 seconds left. Gongja stands over the melting doll, annoyed. He complains about the boss's cruel design. 3 seconds. 1 second. Time's up. The floor erupts. Sharp, black spikes shoot up from the ground, impaling him from every direction. "Time's up, zombie," the Swordmaster calls out. The cursed flames finally break through, engulfing Gongja. He screams, begging his master to just kill him quickly. The ghost just laughs maniacally, telling him to scream faster. A familiar blue window appears in the darkness. "You have died. The skill's conditions have been met." Gongja kneels in the void, clutching his head. He's not mad about dying. He's mad because he just remembered the promise he made to the knight at the gate, the one about his dying lover and incurable disease. He was supposed to die a hunter's death, not come back to life. The Swordmaster just grins. He knows, but he doesn't care. He tells Gongja not to worry about it, because he hit the jackpot. Floating skill cards appear all around them. The Swordmaster points to a golden card. It's the skill the boss used, Inferno Barrier. It's the exact skill the Flame Emperor used to survive the fire. It's an amazing ability for a boss monster skill, and the obvious choice. He reaches for it, but Gongja doesn't move. He's lost in thought. Gongja asks his master if he felt anything from the doll he grabbed. He recalls its melting, horrified face. He says that while the barrier is a god-tier skill, he felt something else, a strange odor coming from that doll. The Swordmaster speculates that maybe Gongja has some kind of sensory skill. That's it. The comment triggers a realization. Gongja's eyes go wide. The Swordmaster sees his reaction and gets angry, thinking Gongja was hiding another skill from him. But Gongja isn't listening. He looks at his hand, then sees a vision of the dolls. One of them is shining brighter than all the the others. He finally understands. The real doll is the one that wants to be found. He asks a critical question. Why aren't the fake dolls burning in the fire? As Gongja reaches out into the void, the swordmaster begins to explain that there's only one answer. A bright light envelops them. A new skill card appears. Be careful of her awake or sleep. Gongja realizes the doll had a skill that allows the user to share senses. He made his choice. The system confirms it. Choice completed. Copying skill. As he falls through a rainbow-colored void, he laments his decision. The last thing he sees is a final, brutal message. You have died. But this time, there's no void, no skill cards. He's plunged into a memory, a story. A small, white-haired child wanders a cold, dark town, begging for just a piece of bread. Mister, I'm hungry, the child pleads, but doors are slammed in their face. Rejected and alone, the child stumbles through the streets, so hungry they'd eat even moldy bread. Suddenly, they bump into a man in a green coat. The man looks down, a kind smile on his face. He asks if the child has parents, notes the sores on their body, and sees their desperation. With a sinister glint in his eyes, he leans in and says, "Come with me." He leads the child to a grand mansion, promising food, medicine, and friends. The child, full of hope, follows the kind mister through the gates, but the kindness was a lie. The child is thrown into a cage. The man walks away down a long corridor lined with cages, each holding another terrified child. He promises to bring them all more friends soon. The vision twists and darkens. The man holds the child by their tunic, his kind mask gone. He calls them vermin and declares his mission is to cure the world by getting rid of them. The scene flashes to a hooded cult leader preaching to a crowd, calling for sacrifice. People are burned alive in a massive pit. Gongja and the swordmaster are just spirits here, forced to watch the horrific trauma unfold. Gongja realizes it now. This isn't just a vision. This is the original copy of the 10th floor boss stage, a reenactment of the tragedy that created the monster. The swordmaster explains that boss monsters are born from these terrible events in the other world. The vision continues. A massive fire engulfs the mansion. While people outside panic, Gongja sees the truth. The children are trapped in the basement, pressing against the barred windows as the flames rage. They cry out for the kind mister to save them, but no one comes. Their final thoughts echo in the inferno. We just wanted to live a little while longer. A system window appears. The trauma reenactment is over. The penalty has ended. Gongja is back, sitting on the edge of a bed, his head in his hands. The swordmaster is beside him, admitting he feels helpless. Gongja is furious. He refuses to just kill the monster. He won't be like the Flame Emperor, who just got a hint from a higher floor and brute forced his way through. He's going to find another way. He walks to a wall, finds a loose section, and pushes. He has a new plan. He recalls the description of the skill he copied, the one that lets him expose lies. He grins. He understands now. Gongja walks back into the 10th floor boss room. The inferno rages, and the two childlike hosts appear, asking if he's their friend. But this time, Gongja is calm. He walks straight into the fire, a ball of golden light in his hands. A system window announces his new skill is active. Be wary of fire. The cursed flames part around him, refusing to touch him. The dolls, shaped like the creepy children, look on in shock. He isn't burning. Gongja just smiles. Can we play now? He asks. The game begins. But it's not a fight. It's hide and seek. Gongja covers his eyes and counts as the dolls scatter and hide among the harmless flames. The swordmaster watches, impressed. Gongja plays tag, chasing the laughing dolls. The death trap has become a playground. He realizes this place isn't a boss room. It's a memorial for the lost children. He gently moves through the room, touching each doll, each one saying, "Not me," until his search leads him to a small, solitary cage. Inside sits a single doll with white hair and a simple blue tunic. It's the child from the vision. Gongja kneels down. He doesn't raise a weapon. He just asks, "Will you play with us?" He gently places his hand on the doll's head. "I caught you," he says with a kind smile. "It's your turn now." The doll looks up, its wide eyes meeting his. In that moment, the doll transforms back into the human child from the memory. But this time, they're smiling, peaceful. The curse is broken. The burning mansion fades, replaced by a serene whole building. Blue system messages light up the dark void. Hunter Kim Gongja has officially cleared stage 10. The system generates his reward, but it's just a measly E-rank item for 10 days of food supplies. Back outside a gloomy, sketch-like mansion, Gongja stands with the muscular, red-haired man. Gongja looks exhausted and asks why his companion looks so unimpressed. The redhead waves him off. He bluntly states that clearing the 10th floor is nothing to brag about. He points out that Gongja only survived because he had the scale of a sword dragon. Annoyed, Gongja stares at the ground and mutters that he's too tired to argue. The redhead then cryptically mentions that the time is coming soon. When Gongja asks if it's something to worry about, the man just mutters that humans are all the same. Suddenly, the redhead erupts. A massive orange aura explodes around him as he shouts that he hates talking about serious stuff. He slaps a shocked Gongja on the shoulder, completely changing his tune. He praises Gongja for clearing the boss in his own unique way. Enthusiastic, the redhead summons a small, glowing creature. He hands a cute brown cat over to Gongja as a personal reward. He then tosses a burst of energy into the sky, setting off a massive purple firework. Blue system windows pop up for everyone. The 10th floor is resetting, and the 11th floor will open in exactly 24 hours. Cyan fireworks explode over the modern city skyline. Down below, players flood the message boards, completely freaking out over the news. A massive digital clock appears in the sky, counting counting down from 24 hours. The redhead looks up, noting that he saw this exact scene in his past life. Standing beside him, Gongja watches the lights. He remembers his own past life, realizing this is his second time seeing this spectacle. Pulling out his smartphone, Gongja decides to stir the pot. He types a simple message: "I'm the one who cleared the 10th floor." Instantly, his screen blows up. Anonymous users flood the chat with confusion and disbelief, demanding to know who he is. The redhead crosses his arms and smirks. He asks the young count how it feels to step out of the background and become the main character. With fireworks bursting behind him, Gongja smiles at his phone. He admits it feels amazing. The redhead warns him not to get a big head since he barely survived, but acknowledges that Gongja is a world-class star now. Gongja just smiles back, fully aware of his new status. Their celebration is cut short when a man in full silver plate armor sprints toward them, screaming for the hunter. The knight flips open his visor, his face pale with panic. He demands to know if Gongja is really the one claiming the 10th floor clear. The knight stammers that the entire hunter market is in absolute chaos trying to find him. Gongja casually walks right past him. When the knight grabs his shoulder, glowing with a purple aura, he reveals himself as the vice guild master of the Chenmu Moon Guild. He came to scout him. Gongja coldly brushes him off, stating he doesn't have the time, leaving the armored man completely dejected. The redhead collapses on the ground in a fit of laughter. He warns Gongja that every major guild is going to come hunting for him now. Gongja immediately points a finger at the redhead, demanding his help since he promised to assist him after the 10th floor. The redhead flashes a menacing grin and agrees. He throws an arm around Gongja's shoulder, officially declaring them partners, and drags him down to the first floor to find some sponsors. Later, they sit inside a Starbucks. Gongja relaxes in a blue shirt, sipping a latte and soaking in the sweet taste of victory, but his peace shatters when he pats his pockets. His smartphone is missing. Panic sets in. Gongja suddenly hallucinates the redhead beaten and tied to a brick wall. The redhead snaps him out of it, exploding in anger for being treated like some sort of ghost. Realizing he needs to move, Gongja ignores the outburst and heads straight for the hunter market before it closes. The digital clock in the sky ticks down to 22 hours. As he walks down the street, he notices the small brown cat following him. He scoops the cat up, figuring no one knows its true value yet. The moment Gongja steps into the massive market building, he is swarmed. A blonde man in a white and red uniform approaches, asking if he is Hunter Kim Gongja. Within seconds, representatives from every major guild surround him. A woman in a blue uniform argues with a man in a black suit over who gets to speak first. The blonde man loudly declares himself the lead representative of the Vigilante Guild. Gongja holds up a hand, silencing the crowd. He lays down his terms. First, no one leaks this to the press. Second, they must keep his identity a secret until the clock hits 0. He wants to clear the 11th floor before any other hunters can interfere. The guild reps agree and sit down with him at a coffee table. The bidding war begins. The Vigilante Guild offers 10,000 gold. The Adventure League doubles it to 20,000. Offers fly across the table 30,000, 50,000, escalating rapidly until it hits a staggering 100,000 gold. Gongja sits calmly in the center of the chaos, noting that the Black Dragon Guild is the highest bidder. He asks for a moment to think. As he speaks, the small brown cat jumps off his lap. The moment its paws hit the floor, a swirl of golden energy erupts. The cat transforms into a dark-skinned woman wearing an elegant golden dress and wielding a snake staff. A system window instantly identifies her. Rank 4. It's the Serpent of the Golden Silk. She looks at the guild reps, surprised to see who cleared the 10th floor. Still seated at the table, Gongja touches his white earbud. A confident smile spreads across his face as he declares that now he's interested. He tells her she has guts for revealing herself. She leans on her golden staff and sarcastically thanks him, but internally, she's panicking. She views Gongja as an extreme risk, a total wild card she can't allow to exist unchecked. The blonde vigilante representative tries to interject, calling her by name, but the serpent immediately shuts him down. She turns to the surrounding lower-tier guild reps and tells them to pack up and go home, completely voiding their offers. Then, she leans in close to Gongja and whispers a frantic warning. Someone else is here. Suddenly, the cafe's peace shatters. A massive burst of blue and purple energy explodes through the walls as a figure crashes inside. System windows pop up, introducing the heavy hitters of the tower. Rank 5. Baekyang, the eye-patch-wearing guildmaster of Chenmumun, points a finger and screams at Gongja. Right behind him is Rank 6, the blonde heretic interrogator, who smiles and admits she's a step late. Next is Rank 8, the heavily armored crusader, who bluntly declares they are here to stop hunters from monopolizing talent. Finally, Rank 2 arrives, the Witch of the Black Dragon Guild. The redhead crashes in right after them, kicking a table and yelling a manic welcome. The serpent glares at Baekyang, furious that he ruined her chance to sneak away with Gongja. Baekyang completely ignores her, turning around to scream at the heretic interrogator for her attitude. The blonde woman casually walks past his tantrum, approaching Gongja's table and apologizing for ruining his date. The serpent internally freaks out, realizing she's surrounded by a collection of absolute psychos. She accidentally blurts out that she isn't a psycho herself, drawing weird looks from the group. Baekyang then completely shifts gears, demanding a complicated coffee order and a real estate contract from a very confused barista. The top-ranking guild leaders completely surround Gongja's table. The redhead grabs Gongja's shoulder, hyping up the battle for his recruitment and promising to get him out alive. But Gongja doesn't even flinch. He calmly raises a hand, asking the barista for a menu and a hot Americano, casually mentioning he forgot his wallet. The heretic interrogator sits down across from him, highly amused. She wonders if he's completely clueless or just putting on a brilliant act. Watching him keep his cool, the serpent fans herself. She realizes Gongja has the exact luck and skill she needs to achieve her own goals. The witch steps up, surrounded by floating ornate mirrors. She wants revenge for her fallen guild members and plans to force Gongja to be her man. She tells him a story about the one who climbed the tower and became a legend, extending her hand and offering to make Gongja a king. The serpent immediately counters, warning that the Black Dragon Guild is too intense for a kid. The witch snaps back, ready to fight for him. Gongja cuts through the bickering. He announces he's already decided how he will pick his guild. He holds up a single white playing card with a black spade. He declares he will join whoever wins a game of poker, demanding no special signing bonuses. The guild leaders are stunned, but the shock quickly turns into fierce intrigue. The serpent points her staff, loving the idea of a high-stakes game. The heretic interrogator, Baekhyang, the crusader, and the witch all draw their everyone holds their cards, ready to play. The redhead bursts into manic laughter at the sheer absurdity of the situation. Surrounded by the golden auras of the top rankers, Gongja smiles to himself. This is exactly how he wants to play. With the poker game in full swing, the redhead leans over Gongja's shoulder. He warns him that he's staring down a straight and needs to fold. Across the table, Baekhyang screams at Gongja to call the bet. Ignoring his mentor's advice, Gongja slaps down a call card. The crusader notes it's a decent hand for a nobody. Changing his tune instantly, the redhead hypes Gongja up, urging him to go all in. Gongja doesn't hesitate. He shoves a massive pile of gold coins into the center of the table. Baekhyang completely loses his mind. He slams his cards down and screams that the game is a scam. He accuses Gongja of cheating, convinced the rookie has already secretly aligned with the Black Dragon Guild. Gongja calmly holds up 2 fingers. He points out that he might just be a poker master, and more importantly, Baekhyang has zero proof. Furious, Baekhyang throws a tantrum, screaming at a terrified barista before turning his rage back on Gongja. The crusader decides he's had enough. He places his cards face down and folds. He pats Gongja on the shoulder, guessing the rookie is using some kind of mind-reading skill, and casually walks away. Baekhyang screams at the armored man for quitting to a cheater. The crusader just insults Baekhyang's missing eye and keeps walking. Suddenly, the redhead folds as well. He steps back, claiming he isn't a psycho and just wants to watch the chaos unfold. Gongja accepts the challenge. The table tension skyrockets. The crusader has to physically hold back a raging Baekhyang. The serpent taunts the one-eyed guildmaster, telling him to swallow his pride and accept that losing has its own merits. The heretic interrogator cheerfully offers Baekhyang a drink, but he just screams in her face. With the loudest players out of the way, Gongja turns his attention to the witch. He tells her he's glad she's actually reasonable. Holding an ace of spades and a king of hearts, the witch gets serious. She pushes her chips forward and reveals her past. She lost her home country of Ukraine to war before entering the tower. She asks Gongja if he understands that the fate of the outside world rests in his hands. She explains that nationality still dictates power dynamics in the tower, noting that the other top rankers are Korean while the serpent is Chinese. Gongja completely dismisses her concern. He calls the outside world a garbage can and pushes more gold forward. The witch matches his energy, raising the stakes by betting a rose garden from her hometown. The clock strikes 1800 hours. The witch tells Gongja she hopes to see him again. The serpent eyes the massive pile of gold, eager to take it all for free. Knowing the Black Dragon Guild master likely holds a flush, Gongja smirks. He shoves every last gold coin he has into the pot, declaring a massive all-in. He promises to show them what a real gamble looks like. Staring at Gongja's absolute, unwavering confidence, the witch sighs. She compares his reckless aura to the legendary sword saint. Unwilling to risk it, she throws her cards onto the gold and folds. With the witch out, Gongja finally reveals his hand. He flips over a measly pair of 2s. He was bluffing the entire time. The serpent immediately flips her cards, revealing a full house. She claims the victory and the gold. Gongja just smiles, thanking her for the compliment and officially accepting his place in her guild. Gongja stands up, telling the serpent he'll see her in the guild room. The witch watches him go, highly intrigued by the fearless newcomer. The redhead dramatically begs Gongja to add him as a friend, making Gongja cringe at the Flame Emperor's embarrassing behavior. The witch calls out, asking how Gongja plans to clear the 11th floor without a party. Gongja just smiles and walks away. He states he already has a hint and doesn't need a team. As the guild leaders process the chaotic game, the witch silently vows to make him her man. Gongja and the redhead walk down a sunset-lit street, ready to conquer the next floor. His victory on the 10th floor doesn't stay a secret for long. A massive countdown timer suddenly projects across the sky. Citizens of the tower look up in awe as the giant glowing numbers tick down. News spreads like wildfire, and search engines explode. The revelation that a Korean hunter named Kim Gong-ja just cleared the impossible floor. As the timer hits 0, reporters instantly swarm him with cameras and microphones. A blinding flash of light erupts, engulfing the entire city. When the light fades, an older, white-haired man in a sharp suit steps up to a public podium podium. He delivers a shocking announcement to the world. The tower is dead. The sky above them transforms into a starry void. A massive system message declares that the tower has collapsed, and one final wish remains. A glowing, angelic blonde goddess materializes above the city. She congratulates the hunters, explaining that she is the system itself. She claims their sacrifices successfully fended off a catastrophic threat known as the Demon Dragon. She proclaims the world is finally at peace and calls them all heroes. The crowd erupts into cheers, weeping with joy, but the redhead isn't buying it. He squints at the sky, muttering that the goddess's convenient explanation feels incredibly fake. Suddenly, the world around Gongja begins to glitch. Heavy static tears through the goddess's projection, violently splitting her image in two. A hidden system prompt flickers into view, demanding the acceptance of a new mission. While the rest of the world celebrates blindly, Gongja sees right through the illusion. A red, glowing ring materializes in his vision. Inside it, he sees a transmission of the white-haired man from the broadcast, whispering a single, desperate word: transmit. The illusion stabilizes. The citizens go back to laughing and celebrating their survival, completely unaware of the glitch. A glowing, ethereal crown slowly materializes above Gongja's head. He realizes that on the day the tower supposedly collapsed, the world crowned him their king. The crusader steps up beside him, completely unimpressed. The armored guildmaster scoffs at the title. He bluntly tells Gongja that he feels zero charisma from him. He reminds the rookie that they aren't heroes, just lucky survivors. The redhead throws an arm around Gongja, laughing off the tension and calling him a zombie. But the crusader isn't done. He dramatically points a finger at Gongja, claiming his true ability is to read people's hearts. He sarcastically agrees to call Gongja a king for now. Watching the survivors celebrate around him, Gongja makes a heavy choice. He decides to embrace the burden. If these people need a sword emperor, he will play the part. He steps forward and announces to the group that he is going to clear the 11th floor entirely by himself, claiming the goddess gave him a secret hint. Gongja activates his entry. A massive pillar of light shoots into the sky, teleporting him away, but his streak of good luck instantly shatters. He doesn't arrive in a peaceful new zone. He drops straight into a scene of absolute devastation. Massive beams of destructive light bombard a cracked, barren wasteland. The white-haired man from the broadcast his face is splattered with black blood. Standing on a battlefield littered with corpses, the man raises a sword. He screams at his battered troops to hold the line against the encroaching Demon King army, vowing to fight to the death for the Asen Empire. Chapter 20. Still wearing his sharp blue suit from his victory celebration, Kim Gongja materializes directly into the nightmare. He drops onto the cracked, desolate ground. Before he can even process the devastation, a bare-chested soldier screams a warning. A massive blade swings right at him, for Gongja's head. Across the blood-soaked dirt, an armored knight named Sarbus Aegim drops to one knee. Surrounded by the dead, the broken commander stares at his own sword, whispering a desperate plea for it all to end. Suddenly, a glowing blue emergency quest window snaps open in front of him. The system orders Sarbus to lend his strength to a warrior from another world. Nearby, the white-haired sword saint is already deep in the carnage. He fearlessly carves through a horde of green-skinned monsters with a glowing blue blade, screaming at the panicked soldiers to hold their ground. Amidst the chaos, Gongja receives his reward for clearing the 10th floor. A blue system window chimes, granting him a level 1 scanning skill called Tactic Links. The battlefield around him fades into a mental landscape of colorful light pillars. The system declares this is his chance to become a king. Glowing green data screens flood his vision, allowing him to instantly read the enemy's formations and tactics. Standing in a simulated space surrounded by floating golden cards, Gongja realizes the sheer scale of his new power. The world has finally acknowledged him. He sees two paths to victory. Let the Sword Saint fight a hopeless solo battle, or step up and lead the army himself. The redhead spirit manifests beside him, shocked by the ambition. He bluntly asks if Gongja actually has the talent or experience to command a military force. Gongja just smirks. He admits he has zero experience, but he doesn't need it when he can just steal it. He activates his S-rank copy skill, I want to be like you. In a stylized digital grid, Gongja filters through the skills of every single warrior on the 11th floor, narrowing the massive list down to the top 100. The redhead perches on Gongja's shoulders, highly skeptical of the plan. Gongja playfully threatens to take them all, but his eyes lock onto a single, ominous pink card, stamped with a skull emblem. Treating the battlefield like a giant chessboard, Gongja tracks down Commander Sarbus. He approaches the exhausted knight, internally mocking the man's impressive mustache. Sarbus earnestly asks the otherworldly warrior what he needs. Gongja looks him dead in the eye and asks for a simple favor. He tells Sarbus to kill him. Sarbus's jaw drops. Gongja quickly explains his regression ability, revealing that his death will rewind time and give them a second chance to save the empire. Bound by the system's quest to assist Gongja, Sarbus hesitates, refusing to strike down an ally. Refusing to take no for an answer, Gongja presses a dagger to his own throat. He demands the commander stop acting like a noble knight and use him as a tool to save his people. Watching from the sidelines, the redhead scoffs at the NPC's internal struggle, but Sarbus finally breaks. Weighing his warrior's code against the total annihilation of his empire, he makes the heavy choice. He raises his sword and prays for forgiveness. He promises a painless end and swings his blade down. As the steel bites into Gongja, Sarbus desperately asks for his name. Gongja answers, and the commander thanks him on behalf of the Aeson Empire. The sword pierces straight through Gongja's chest. Instantly, his indomitable will skill triggers. The penalty doubles, converting the absorbed trauma into pure swordsmanship. In a dark mental void, the skills, memories, and combat experience of every single fallen warrior on that battlefield violently engrave themselves into Gongja's soul. Gongja's eyes snap open. Time violently rewinds 24 hours. The cracked wasteland vanishes, replaced by an intact battlefield. He isn't standing in the back wearing a suit anymore. Gongja takes his place at the very front of the Aeson army. Clad in a heavy black coat and a flowing red cape, he grips his sword, ready to lead the Empire to victory. A golden system window flashes in his vision. He just absorbed the combat experience of 10,000 fallen soldiers, instantly acquiring high-level skills in swordsmanship, formation, tactics, and leadership. He now possesses the exact same military genius as Commander Sarbus. Pulling up a glowing pink tactical map, Gongja starts barking orders. Sarbus looks completely caught off guard, but the emergency quest forces him to obey the otherworldly warrior. But Gongja knows raw skill isn't enough to win a war. He raises his hand, summoning a brilliant white and blue blade. It's Lafanta Aegim's holy sword of protection, a legendary weapon gifted by the goddess to the Empire's first hero, passed down only to true kings. With the holy sword shining like a beacon, Gongja orders the army to attack. The redhead manifests beside him, absolutely horrified. He asks if Gongja is seriously treating a bloody war like a strategy game. Gongja just smirks. Standing in a mental space filled with green data screens, he casually calls it a luck-based game. Since he already has the best items and the best skills, he just needs to point the protagonist in the right direction. The Aeson Knights charge forward, screaming praises to their new hero. Watching from the backlines, the top-ranked hunters, including the Witch and Crusader, are completely baffled. They wonder why a random hunter is leading an entire empire's army. Basking in their jealousy, Gongja vows to show them how a commoner becomes a king. He tracks the massive pink tactical grid, declaring the demon army's left wing completely annihilated. He points his glowing sword forward, ordering his forces to crush the main enemy line. The rest of the hunters finally join the slaughter. The heretic interrogator carves through the horde, while the sword saint zeroes in on the enemy commander. A massive green-skinned demon king's subordinate demands to know who these hunters are. He doesn't get an answer. The sword saint impales the beast through the chest, unleashing a massive blast of blue energy that completely obliterates the monster. With their commander dead, the demon army crumbles. The Aeson Knights raise their red banners, roaring in victory as they successfully defend their home. The remaining hunters easily mop up the surviving grubs. Suddenly, a blue system window drops over the dusty battlefield. The 11th floor has been cleared. A massive leaderboard projects into the sky, leaving the hunters stunned. The system announces the floor was cleared in a single day. Sitting at the undisputed #1 spot is a name none of them recognize, Kim Gongja. He instantly earns a massive 100,000 points and an S-rank skill. Watching from a distance, the redhead throws an arm around Gongja. He praises his S-class master skills and eagerly asks if Gongja plans to solo the next floor too. Gongja bluntly refuses. He flat out states he isn't going to waste his energy fighting for a fallen emperor. The redhead's face lights up with excitement, thrilled that Gongja is finally showing his true, selfish colors. Before they can celebrate, Commander Sarbus approaches. He bows his head, thanking the goddess's hero for saving his people. Gongja pats the exhausted knight on the shoulder, telling him he did a good job. Then, Gongja asks for a favor. He holds up his hand, revealing a glowing green gem on his glove. He tells Sarbus he doesn't need an army. Instead, he wants to give the commander his own territory to rule. Gongja figures a hero chosen by the holy sword deserves a proper stage. Gongja extends his hand. Smiling from beneath his helmet, Sarbus gladly accepts the handshake. The second their hands clasp, Gongja's trap springs. Blue system windows violently erupt around him. The system announces that possession has begun. A massive vortex of blue light and data fragments swallows Gongja. The system begins extracting a skill called the Returner's Clockwork Watch, but it doesn't stop. Another window chimes, extracting the skills of every hunter who participated in the subjugation. The Witch, Crusader, and Heretic Interrogator flash through his mind. Gongja stares at the glowing blue orb forming in his hands, ready to take absolutely everything. The blue light fades, and Gongja materializes on the 12th floor, but he isn't in his own body. He stands in an opulent grand hall, wearing a sharp black suit and short brown hair. A system window flashes to confirm his new identity. S-rank theft was a total success. He rushes straight toward the Heretic Interrogator, asking if this is her 100 Ghosts reincarnation skill. Shocked, she confirms it is. The skill allows the user to possess the body of a dead person. Gongja smirks in his mind, thrilled with his new power. The Heretic Interrogator quickly pieces it together and congratulates him for clearing the 11th floor. Before Gongja can even accept the praise, a blur of motion interrupts them. The sword saint, Baekhyang, lunges onto the red-carpeted staircase. Dressed in a blue suit, the old man ignores his own subordinates and locks his intense gaze directly onto Gongja's possessed body. He bluntly apologizes, stating that his instincts are screaming at him to kill this man. Without hesitation, he declares he is going to behead him right now. The Heretic Interrogator immediately steps between them to protect Gongja. She asks if the Sword Saint is willing to back down. Baekhyang refuses. A brilliant golden aura erupts around the heretic interrogator as she prepares for a deadly clash. Seeing the escalating threat, Gongja instantly runs a mental simulation to test his newly stolen arsenal. In his mind, he unleashes the heretic interrogator's power, summoning multiple copies of her to attack the Sword Saint from all angles with glowing red daggers, but the assault completely fails. Baekhyang stands completely unscathed, casually slicing a copy in half. He smirks, revealing he isn't fighting alone. In the simulation, the Crusader and the rest of the top hunters manifest beside the Sword Saint, proving their combined strength is too much to overcome. Gongja pushes the simulation further, testing out the other stolen abilities. He visualizes a scenario where a debtor hunter is cornered by loan sharks. Tapping into the transformed woman's skill, he summons a giant golden pot that washes the attackers away in a massive torrent of gold coins. He cycles through the stolen powers, testing Baekhyang's sword constellation, the Crusader's solo defending our lands, and the transformed woman's I shall repay you with my riches. But the simulation quickly turns against him. The mental space shifts, and the witch manifests before him, surrounded by floating purple swords. She coldly reminds Gongja that she never agreed to lend him her power. A montage of the top hunters' stern faces glares down at him. The Crusader steps forward, asking Gongja if he seriously thinks he can win a fight using their own stolen skills against them. Gongja realizes a head-on battle is a guaranteed death sentence. He remembers a crucial piece of advice about survival. You either need a comrade stronger than you, or you need many comrades. Snapping back to reality in the Grand Hall, Gongja completely changes his approach. He calls off the fight and calmly walks right up to the Sword Saint. Dropping his guard, Gongja openly praises the old man's incredible skills and bluntly states his desire to be liked by him. Baekhyang just stares back, silent and unreadable. Sweating under the intense glare, Gongja realizes the stubborn Sword Saint isn't buying his friendly act. He tries to play it cool, but his mind is in absolute chaos. Stealing the skills of top-ranked hunters comes with a massive mental backlash. The witch and the transformed woman manifest in his consciousness, absolutely furious. Transformed woman screams at him for tapping into her wealth without permission, while the witch glares with glowing purple eyes, promising to make him pay for his arrogance. Pushed to the brink, Gongja snaps back, yelling that his actual life is on the line. Back in the Grand Hall, Baekhyang doesn't care about Gongja's internal struggles. The Sword Saint smirks, finding the possessed man's shifting demeanor highly amusing. But amusement doesn't stop his killing intent. Without warning, the old man lunges forward, drawing his blade for a lethal strike. Gongja knows he can't win a direct fight. He realizes his only chance of survival is to turn the heroes against each other. Before Baekhyang's sword can connect, a heavy armored boot steps onto the red carpet. The paladin intercepts the attack. Clad in full white and blue plate armor, the high-ranking hunter tells the Sword Saint to stand down. The paladin bluntly states that turning their weapons on each other right now is completely illogical. Baekhyang glares, calling Gongja a dangerous anomaly, but the paladin refuses to budge. To settle the dispute, the paladin raises a golden gauntlet and activates a high-level system skill. A massive golden window materializes, announcing that lie detection is now active. For the next 5 minutes, any lie spoken by Gongja will be instantly broadcasted to the entire room. The paladin lays out the terms. If Gongja tells the truth, the civilian guild will personally guarantee his safety from the Sword Saint. Knowing he holds all the cards, Gongja confidently accepts the terms. The paladin starts the interrogation, asking point blank if Gongja killed the Demon King on the 11th floor. With a slight smirk, Gongja simply answers yes. Baekhyang immediately shouts in protest, claiming Gongja just got lucky by tagging along with the subjugation team. But the system immediately flashes, shutting down the Sword Saint's accusation and validating Gongja's incredible solo achievement. Utterly baffled, Baekhyang loses his temper. He points a finger at Gongja, desperately shouting that his killer instincts are never wrong and that everyone else is acting crazy for trusting this man. Seeing the old man unravel, Gongja leans into the chaos. He throws his arms wide and mockingly shouts that Baekhyang is right and that he is the weird one. A system window instantly pops up, declaring Gongja's statement a total lie. The system literally proves Gongja's sanity, making the Sword Saint look like a paranoid, raving lunatic. Taking complete control of the room, Gongja holds up a glowing item. He calmly states that there is indeed a suspicious person among them, and he fully intends to investigate everyone present. The system chimes in, confirming every single word as the absolute truth. Watching from the sidelines, the heretic interrogator bursts into laughter, noting that the Sword Saint's little witch hunt has completely failed. With his safety officially guaranteed by the paladin and the system itself, Gongja drops the defensive act. He casually walks right up to the defeated Sword Saint and lightly kicks the old man in the shin just to test his boundaries. Baekhyang freezes, too stunned to retaliate. Gongja leans in close, flashing a sinister grin. He whispers directly into the old man's ear, declaring that it's time for Baekhyang to return what he stole from him. The Sword Saint's face instantly contorts in pure shock and boiling rage as Gongja mentally taunts his new prey. Continuing the tense standoff, Gongja leans in close and whispers his demand. He tells the Sword Saint it's time to return what was stolen from him. Baekhyang is completely thrown off. His face flushes with pure rage as he stammers back, insisting insisting that Gongja is the one with a screw loose. Gongja leans right into the accusation. He throws his arms wide and loudly declares to the room that he doesn't have a heart. Taking the bait, Baiqiang points a trembling finger at him, shouting that Gongja has a serious problem with his head and is a highly dangerous man. Instantly, the golden system window flashes. It confirms the Sword Saint's accusation as absolute truth. Baiqiang stares at his own hands, completely baffled by the system's confirmation. Gongja knows exactly what he's doing. He remembers the redhead's lesson about memories acting like an emperor's legacy. He is deliberately pushing the old man's buttons to access those hidden depths. The tension finally breaks. Baiqiang lowers his guard and holds up a small, dark sword hilt. The stubborn Sword Saint actually bows his head. He admits he was wrong. Reflecting on his pride as a master swordsman, he realizes that attacking someone weaker goes against everything he stands for. Swallowing his immense pride, Baiqiang formally apologizes for his blind aggression and asks for forgiveness. Seeing the genuine remorse, Gongja drops his own defensive act. He apologizes in return, promising never to doubt the old man again, and asks the paladin for forgiveness as well. The system chimes in, confirming every single word as the absolute truth. The suffocating hostility in the room completely vanishes. But then, Baiqiang takes it a step too far. He bows deeply, addresses Gongja as a fellow sword saint, and begs Gongja to teach him the sword. Gongja just stares at him. Amused, he quotes an old phrase about drawing the sword of judgment from his heart before bluntly rejecting the old man. He scratches his head and flat out tells Baiqiang that he just isn't his type. Baiqiang turns bright red, completely flustered by the casual rejection. Watching from the sidelines, the other top-ranked hunters can hardly believe their eyes. The witch smirks, finding Gongja's weird personality surprisingly cute. The paladin is just relieved a bloodbath was avoided. Even the heretic interrogator strikes a dramatic, sparkly pose, laughing and eagerly asking to be friends. But Baiqiang isn't giving up. He suddenly grabs both of Gongja's hands, his face beaming with pure joy. He insists they become best friends, and demands Gongja call him Hyung Nim. Gongja desperately tries to pull his hands away, completely weirded out by the old man's sudden clinginess. Baiqiang even asks for his phone number, loudly proclaiming to the room what a great guy his new little brother is. While Gongja struggles to escape the aggressive friendship, a series of blue system windows suddenly erupt in his vision. The system announces that his special experience has generated brand new abilities. He is granted the EX rank skill Returnee's Clockwork Watch, and a second skill called the Successor's Eyes. A brilliant golden light swallows Gongja as the new skills activate. The light reveals a horrifying hidden truth about the tower. The system projects the image of a demonic figure with a glowing red eye, exposing a massive secret. There are actually two Demon Kings. One is real and one is a fake, but the conditions to stop the fake Demon King are absolute insanity. A massive text box explains that the only way to weaken the fake is to slaughter all the top 10 heroes in the tower, except for himself. Doing so will allow the killer to become the new Demon King. Gongja stares in stunned silence. He looks around the room at the smiling faces of the heroes who just accepted him. Two massive system windows materialize before him, one glowing gold, the other a demonic black. The system prompts him to choose his reward and his path. Gongja realizes that to save the world, he might have to murder everyone in this room. He stands paralyzed before the choices. Suddenly, a ghostly memory of the redhead materializes behind him, whispering a grim warning that this is a trap. Gongja just stares at the prompt. He realizes this isn't just a choice for him to make, it's a choice for everyone. He remembers the redhead's old philosophy about making everyone save him instead of playing the lone hero. But Gongja knows that path won't earn him the title he desperately needs. The redhead's memory flashes again, warning Gongja not to follow in his footsteps. The redhead climbed to the 100th floor completely alone, and it left him broken and bound in glowing blue chains. Gongja realizes there is no magical world where everyone saves you. Frustrated, he violently kicks over a table in his mental space. He refuses to walk the lonely path. Staring at the ceiling, he makes a crazy decision. He is going to throw this run. Gongja stands up in his mind and tells the redhead's ghost that he's going to make everyone choose. Snapping back to reality, Gongja turns to the assembled top-ranked hunters. He loudly announces that he refuses to make the choice himself. Instead, he is sharing the rewards with all of them. The witch and the heretic interrogator stare in shock as three new system windows pop up. The system confirms his decision, distributing the choice to all participants. It states the trial will only end when everyone in the room agrees on a single path. A gray-haired man in a suit asks what Gongja is playing at, but before Gongja can answer, a brilliant golden light swallows the man. The crusader is also bathed in the glow. The top hunters look at their hands in awe, feeling their bodies grow lighter and their senses sharpen to an insane degree. The heretic interrogator flashes a crazed smile. He realizes exactly what Gongja is doing. Gongja is forcing the strongest people in the tower to make the impossible choice for him. Crackling with volatile white energy, the heretic interrogator laughs like a maniac. He streaks across the grand hall in a flash of light, shouting for everyone to pay attention. He lays out the rules of this twisted mafia game. All 9 of them must agree to be a hero or a demon king. Without hesitating, the interrogator summons a glowing blue crystal and proposes they take the demon king's path. He cheerfully suggests they just slaughter all the heroes on the 10th floor. Baiqiang smirks, calling Gongja a total psycho. window, but the Sword Saint is fully on board. The Crusader, surrounded by golden particles, agrees to the massacre. The witch glows with golden light and calls dibs on the first kill, while the transformed woman warmly promises to slaughter everyone for Gongja's sake. The entire room of top-ranked hunters looks up at Gongja, fully agreeing to become villains. The system chimes, announcing the reward distribution has ended. Gongja remembers the redhead telling him that a choice made together is the only real choice. The system congratulates Gongja for clearing the floor, but then the real trap springs. A massive window appears, displaying the faces of 8 heroes in the room, including the witch, Baekyang, and the Crusader. Every single face is crossed out with a brutal red X. The system announces Gongja's true reward, the execution of these 8 people. The witch looks up in absolute horror, her voice trembling as she asks Gongja if he knew this would happen. The heretic interrogator just stares in surprise, while Baekyang's smirk twists into a dark, excited grin. The Sword Saint relishes the sudden tension, declaring he can feel heads are about. The transformed woman hides her face behind a fan, remembering the bloodbaths of past guild wars. As the Crusader's booming voice demands answers, a system message flashes in furious red text. It gives Gongja one absolute command. The Crusader steps forward to take control. Clad in her white and blue armor, she announces she will use her lie detection skill to find out who actually chose the Demon King's path. She draws her weapon, declaring she will kill anyone who lies on the spot. Gongja just stares at her with a deadpan expression and flatly says, "No." The Crusader is caught completely off guard, raising her hands and insisting her skill is absolute. The interrogation begins anyway. One by one, the top hunters step forward to deny being the traitor. The suit man casually brushes off the accusation. The heretic interrogator flashes a slight smile and denies it. Baekyang and the transformed woman both claim innocence. The Crusader and the witch watch closely, realizing that every single person is telling the truth. The system windows chime, confirming the lie detector is working perfectly. The suit man connects the dots. Since everyone else passed, he points directly at the Crusader and accuses her of being the traitor. Cornered and sweating, the Crusader actually apologizes. She confesses that she was the one who chose the Demon King's reward, but the suit man immediately objects, pointing out that her own lie detector didn't react to the confession. The Crusader tries to justify her actions, arguing that building trust among them is more important right now than the absolute truth. The heretic interrogator bursts into laughter. He leans on the Crusader's shoulder, agreeing that it took a long time for the 9 of them to build trust as guild masters. He notes it's much harder to trust individuals than entire guilds, remembering the chaotic, bloody guild wars of the past. The Crusader agrees, but suddenly grows serious, telling him this isn't the time to play around. The heretic interrogator's demeanor instantly shifts. His hand erupts in a glowing rainbow aura. Chanting a holy technique, he lunges straight past the Crusader, declaring he's going to take out rank 10 first. He clashes violently with the suit man, the true Sword Saint. Using a skill to cut off teleportation, the interrogator traps his target. He brutally strikes the suit man across the face, leaving him a bloody, defeated mess on the floor. System windows flash, leveling up the interrogator's own truth-seeing skill. Covered in blood, he cheerfully points at the dead Sword Saint and declares him the traitor. The Crusader watches in absolute horror, realizing she had no idea they were supposed to kill him themselves. But before the interrogator can celebrate his kill, the Grand Hall erupts in blinding purple lightning. Gongja is caught in the devastating blast, screaming in agony. The heretic interrogator is also struck by the massive bolt and collapses to the floor, completely wiped out. Baekyang stands in the center of the room, crackling with volatile purple energy. He furiously screams for a fight, yelling that he is about to die. The chaos is exactly what Gongja needs. He stands over the defeated Crusader, who desperately begs for her life and offers up her divine judgment skill. Massive explosions rock the hall as Baekyang and the transformed woman are taken down. Surrounded by swirling power, Gongja declares himself the true successor of the Sword Saint. He approaches a battered Baekyang, who surrenders his Black Dragon's Breath skill. Gongja calmly accepts it, then turns his sights on the defeated heretic interrogator, vowing to take his skills as well. Standing amidst the fallen heroes, Gongja realizes this was his true goal all along. He was always after their skills. A memory of the redhead flashes in his mind, reminding him not to hesitate because this is the only way to get stronger. The system confirms the activation of his successor skill. Gongja coldly rejects the Crusader's final pleas to talk things out. He blasts Baekyang with another attack. The old man completely loses his mind, screaming that Gongja can't do this. Crackling with residual lightning, Baekyang makes a bizarre, desperate threat to ask out Gongja's granddaughter before turning and running for his life. Gongja easily corners him. He stands over the defeated guildmaster and explains that he just needed time to absorb the Black Dragon sword. He casually mentions he can kill the rest of them later. Baekyang's rage melts into pure shock as he looks up and asks if it's finally over. The violence ends. Gongja stands at the head of a long table. The 7 surviving top hunters sit before him, bruised, bandaged, and utterly broken. Looking down at the strongest people in the tower, Gongja issues a simple command. They must all become his apostles. When the Crusader asks what an apostle is, Gongja bluntly calls them his subordinates. He projects a massive digital space around them, revealing a glowing red button on a console. He explains the stakes to the battered heroes. If he presses presses the button, the entire 10th floor will reset. He admits he will lose all the powerful skills he just stole, but they will all die permanently. A blue system window chimes, announcing the floor is officially cleared. Holding their lives completely in his hands, Gongja flashes a dark smile and says, "We start over." Gongja holds the top hunters hostage, and the tower responds. A blue system window pops up, announcing that he has cleared the floor to death. The digital meeting room shatters into a chaotic red void. Gongja stands calmly, holding a glowing red dagger, while the surviving guildmasters stare into the overwhelming abyss. They realize the system is completely on Gongja's side. The automatic punishment for failing the floor looms over them. Bound by shadowy tendrils, the suitman drops to his knees, terrified that his very soul is about to be destroyed. A battered Baiqiang bleeds from his mouth, desperately looking around and wondering where their lord is. Gongja looks down at the broken heroes. He tells them he will give them one last chance. Glowing with intense purple energy, he makes a silent vow to himself. He is going to become a hunter of hunters. He will hunt down anyone who stops seeing humans as humans. He presses a glowing pink interface, triggering a massive, chaotic explosion of red and blue energy that swallows the hunters whole. The scene shifts dramatically. A new blue system window outlines an abyss difficulty quest. Defend the Empire's capital. The Demon King is dead, but his monstrous army remains. If the hunters fail to protect the city, the 11th floor will stay locked forever. Armored soldiers look out over a burning, war-torn city under a blood-red sky. Gongja's new apostles are already on the ground, wearing matching black and red uniforms. The heretic interrogator smiles, joking about how hard this new job is as an army of dark, red-eyed monsters marches toward them. Standing on a blood-splattered street, Gongja pulls out a glowing green dagger. He tells the witch and the interrogator to wait while he gets a feel for the situation. The interrogator immediately mocks him, calling Gongja a dead weight and telling him to just try not to die. The transformed woman steps in, snapping at the interrogator to stop teasing and focus on the mission. Across the battlefield, the suitman and the crusader assess the grim reality. The Demon King's army is far larger than anticipated, and the Empire's native hunters are too weak to help. The crusader readies her heavy armor, agreeing that they have to hold the capital alone. Meanwhile, the heretic interrogator greets a bizarre reinforcement. A small, blonde-haired child with tiny white wings pops out of a coffin-like object. The child introduces herself as the Great General, cheerfully confirming she is here to protect the castle. Gongja walks straight into the red-tinged chaos. A panicked Imperial soldier grabs his shoulder, warning him to turn back. Gongja just calmly introduces himself and keeps walking. Suddenly, the witch appears beside him. A hazy memory hits Gongja. In this world's history, this red-haired official was supposed to introduce him to the Chancellor before the war broke out. She even vows to protect him, promising not to let her man die. The witch suddenly cuts in. She extends her hand toward Gongja and reveals a massive twist. In this world, she is the Empire's Chancellor. She grabs a shocked Gongja by the arm and teleports them away in a swirl of black energy and red petals. They reappear high on the stone walkway of the castle wall. Gongja panics, worrying about the native soldiers dying below. He knows the people born in this tower are no different from real humans. The witch kneels on the edge of the wall, looking down at the desperate battle. She admits she can't just sit back after seeing her own bad side. Standing tall, she projects her voice across the battlefield, shouting for the soldiers to stand forth. She passionately calls them the true walls and fangs of the Empire. The Imperial Knights look up in awe, recognizing their chancellor. Their morale instantly skyrockets. The witch raises her glowing blue sword high into the air, declaring that the goddess is protecting them. Golden system windows flash, announcing she is using all of her authority. A massive angelic figure materializes in the dark sky. It casts a blinding light down on the castle and its defenders. As the golden light washes over them, Gongja's mind is pulled into the world's dark history. He remembers the tragic fate of the Empire's people. They were born human, but the tower treated them as mere NPCs. Gongja knows this. The crushing pain of being treated like you aren't human. In the original timeline, the Empire fought a desperate, losing war against the Demon King. The scribes recorded the bitter end of humanity as the monster army slaughtered everyone in their path. Snapping back to the present, Gongja stands beside the witch on the illuminated castle wall. He confirms that he remembers the tragic history. In his past life, he hid from the Imperial Palace because of a traitor, but now he is standing right in the center of it all as an apostle. The witch's eyes glow with intense purple energy as she projects her voice, screaming for the soldiers below to rise up. The demoralized knights instantly rally, pulling each other to their feet and preparing for war. Gongja and the witch step away from the ledge and walk down the castle corridor. She smiles, teasing him about being surprisingly mature for his age. As they walk, Redhead watches them pass with a confused look. Gongja tries to shake off the awkwardness and asks the witch to confirm her role. She proudly states she is the Empire's Chancellor. Gongja knows exactly what he has to do. He has to kill the Demon King to clear this floor. He asks if she is a hunter. Surrounded by a smoky red aura, the witch declares she is the last hunter of the Ajim Empire, raised from birth to be its sword. Then, she looks at Gongja and calls him her lord. Gongja smirks. He tells her he can get used to the title because, as a hunter, death never waits for him. The witch smiles back, ready to hunt the Demon King's head. A dark vision flashes before Gongja's eyes. He sees a skeletal figure with glowing red eyes, the Demon King taunting a hunter. He sees the brutal, bloody reality of a past timeline where hunters had to kill humans just to save humanity. System windows announce the defeat of both the Demon King and the last apostle. In that ruined timeline, the witch stood alone in the rubble of the capital, only for the transformed woman to tell her the nightmare wasn't over. Back in the present, Gongja tells the witch it's time to move. His apostle is waiting for him on the battlefield. The witch feels a blue light glowing in her chest, realizing the system is actively acknowledging her protection. She looks at Gongja and asks if he plans to kill her. Shocked by the question, Gongja firmly grabs her hand. He tells her he isn't going to kill her. They are going to do this together. A massive swirl of blue and purple energy erupts around them, mixed with red petals, teleporting them away. Gongja hits the blood-red battlefield running. He charges toward the front lines, thinking he has no allies looking out for him in this chaos. Suddenly, a familiar arm wraps around his neck in a headlock. It's Redhead. Surrounded by blue energy, Redhead playfully calls him a zombie. He lectures Gongja, telling him it's impossible to win a war alone. Battles are fought with everyone. Redhead holds up a glowing black device and tells Gongja he knows why he didn't call for him before. Gongja didn't trust him. Gongja looks down in shame, but Redhead brushes it off, saying things are different now. Redhead tells Gongja to be a hero. Glowing with a fierce turquoise aura, Gongja charges forward and violently smashes into a green-skinned monster. The impact creates a massive rainbow distortion. Internally, Gongja apologizes for trying to shoulder the burden alone. He lands on his feet, his face glowing with determined red energy. Fighting back-to-back with Redhead against facing the monster horde, Gongja finally realizes he isn't alone. Gongja swings his glowing green sword and calls out that he's taking the left flank. Moving in perfect sync, they wipe out the immediate monster wave. A single second. Nearby, Redhead carves through the green-skinned horde with wide, powerful arcs. He yells at Gongja not to dream of taking his spot on the battlefield. He warns him that the monsters are trying to push through the entrance fort. He demands Gongja hold the line, so the native soldiers don't lose hope. Gongja promises he won't let them down. Gongja moves like a blur, gracefully slicing through the monsters in a deadly dance. As he cuts a beast cleanly in half, a dark thought crosses his mind. He wonders why the tower gave an SSS-class skill to a psychopath like him. He remembers the menacing grin of a monster from his past, but quickly shakes it off. His expression hardens. He isn't a monster. He is going to be a hero on this stage. As he leaps through the air, blue system screens pop up. The system announces his existence is becoming clearer. He levels up, officially becoming a D-rank hunter. Standing over a pile of corpses, Gongja notes they cleared the wave in just 30 seconds. Then, he spots a familiar figure. The Sword Saint, an older man in a crisp suit, is effortlessly carving through the monsters with a glowing green blade. Gongja remembers how this man used to praise him in his past life, but things are different now. Gongja realizes he has grown strong enough to stand beside his old mentor as an equal. With a confident smirk, his eyes glow red as he formally introduces himself. The Sword Saint smiles back, impressed, and officially joins the front line. Nearby, the great general takes charge. The tiny, winged child passionately rallies the Empire's soldiers, declaring they will be written on the last page of history. System alerts confirm the soldiers' morale and attack power are skyrocketing. Gongja and the Sword Saint charge forward side by side. The Sword Saint tells Gongja he is paying back a debt from the previous timeline. He tells the young hunter to push forward while he holds the line. The battlefield turns into an absolute slaughterhouse. The witch summons floating red orbs and scatters them into devastating energy beams, screaming for no one to steal her spot. The Sword Saint leaps into the air, bringing his blade down in a massive blue shockwave. The four heavy hitters stand united against the horde, completely dominating the field. But the real threat is finally waking up. Ominous red energy pulses through the air. A dark vision flashes in Gongja's mind. He sees the Demon King sitting on a throne of shadows under a blood-red sky. The monstrous entity taunts him, demanding he step forward. Gongja walks across a field of corpses, reflecting on his allies. He remembers the Sword Saint as his teacher, the Great General as his partner, the Witch as the one he had to kill, and Redhead as the one who eventually killed him. He vows to do things better this time. In a shadowy void, the Demon King's voice echoes, mocking Gongja. The monster realizes Gongja has the goddess's blessing, but bluntly states he is no true apostle. A tragic memory flashes before Gongja's eyes, a past failure where he couldn't save the witch from being pulled into the abyss. The Demon King tells him he has to make a choice today. Gongja stares into the dark void and agrees. He isn't an apostle. Without hesitation, Gongja raises his glowing sword to his own neck. He declares he choosing to go back to the past. He violently slashes his own throat. A blue system window confirms his death. As his vision fades, a final alert pops up. He has successfully copied one of the Sword Saint's skills, triggering the second round. Gongja floats in a dark void. The system processes the copied skills, and 4 glowing cards appear before him. He wonders why the tower would offer a coward like him the abilities of a rank 1 hunter. A vision of Redhead appears, stands beside him, urging him to listen. Gongja inspects the golden cards. The first skill, Resentment Pours Like Rain, carries the bitter grudge of hunters who were betrayed or gave up. The second, Echoes of a Crying Heart, holds the tragic memory of a crying white-haired boy who lost his family. Gongja admits he isn't a good person, but he desperately needs this power. He looks at the final gold card, Inferior inferior grade sword swing, a skill forged by swinging a blade 10,000 times a day. He reaches out, deciding to borrow the painful memories the sword saint tried to bury. As his fingers touch the glowing card, the system confirms his selection. He is instantly thrown 24 hours into the past, but the power comes with a price. Red system warnings flash in the dark, hitting him with a medium-level penalty called Hungry Ghost Hell. The system forces him to reenact the trauma of his killer. Gongja snaps awake in a brightly lit room. The witch sits at a table, casually asking if he's leaving already. Gongja clutches his head as a blinding pain rips through his skull. He stammers that he just recalled something from his past life, brushing off the penalty. He tells her the 11th floor is open, and he has urgent business. Suddenly, Redhead throws an arm around Gongja's neck in a playful headlock. He complains about his own quest to persuade the top 10 hunters to join him unconditionally. This sparks an idea in Gongja's mind. To build his capital and clear the stage, he needs to unite the top 10 hunters under one massive guild. He approaches the guild leaders, but the witch, the heretic interrogator, and the transformed woman all brush him off to handle their own affairs. Gongja isn't worried. He considers step 1 complete, but he needs insurance for his next move. The fully armored vice captain of the paladins approaches, eagerly asking to accompany him. Gongja easily manipulates the naive knight, acting as if he planned to ask him all along. The knight clenches his fists in excitement, thrilled to be acknowledged by his lord. As they walk through the bustling city streets, the knight asks where they are going. Gongja says they are visiting a store. Internally, Gongja is bracing for a fight. He remembers his past life, where the sword saint looked down at him with a red kill count floating over his head. He knows the old man is going to try and stop him. Gongja feeds the knight a fabricated sob story. He claims he's just trying to survive, find a place where people trust him, and stop being used by others. The honorable knight feels deeply ashamed of his own suspicions. He bows his head and vows to protect Gongja no matter what. They arrive at a small building at sunset. A green-haired woman in a white lab coat opens the door, cheerfully greeting them before quickly saying she's out of medicine and closed for the day. But then she spots the massive armored knight. She instantly recognizes the vice captain of the paladins and completely panics. Terrified of being arrested, she frantically waves her hands, claiming she's just a huge fan of the paladins. When she realizes Gongja is the one in charge, her merchant instincts kick in. Her glasses glint as she leans in close, excitedly pitching her business and promising to cure his anxieties about the future. Gongja completely ignores her. With a deadpan expression, he pushes past the rambling woman and steps into the dark building. He isn't here for medicine. Waiting quietly in the shadows is the sword saint. The old man stands in his crisp suit, staring Gongja down, ready for their inevitable confrontation.